getting his teeth.
We know the church.
On the day-to-day, the shit change, but you know for the most part, nothing indifferent. Sometimes be stuck in my ways, weekend fucked up in somebody's kitchen. Sticking my hand down, chilling with the troops and my few cans down, so I walk like Winston. Trust me, I wake up hanging, you think that I'm leaving this bed, you're kidding. I'm sitting on back in the pad, get deep fried and I smoke some packs of the grass. Put the feet up, kick back and relaxing at best, know I'm sitting on Riley's gas.
What's happening, troops? We actually have a wee surprise in store for you today. Now, we are going to show you exactly what you could be getting over at the Patreon. So, over at the Patreon, we've got a deep fried every single month.
Yep, and extra bonus content as well.
And extra bonus content, like you've seen with the Gala Day video. We've got like watch-along things with like weird documentaries and shit. So, there's fun stuff happening at the Patreon. So, we just wanted to give the people that haven't signed up a wee taster of what you could be getting. Now, the difference between obviously deep fries on YouTube and Patreon is there's 0 ads in the ones in Patreon, and also there is the option to be a director. So tell them about the Be Director tier.
So if you subscribe to the Be Director tier on Patreon, you can actually pick something for us to discuss. A deep fried kind of topic, but we let them behind the curtain a wee bit. We're actually recording one the new for we're doing the Charles Manson murders. Somebody's requested that, so you can request for mental things. But this was one. When was this? This was a wee while ago. This one.
This was like the second one we done. So like the second month into Patreon, the young man, the fine young man, you'll hear his name many times, Gary Buckets. So shout out to Gary Buckets again for requesting it. The episode is going to be about 2 alien abductions.
A connection with aliens and tribes, the Dogon tribe.
The Dogon tribe, who know about all the stars and that. And then a bit about the Amazon jungle as well.
Aye, so what more do you want?
Really, what more is there in the whole world than that? So, troops, we hope you enjoy it. And if you like it, then go over to the Patreon. The link's below us. Hope you enjoy. Cheers.
As it was. Hi, Patreon. Love yous. Do you like my new haircut? Nice, isn't it?
Let me get out of it.
We're recording. I showed them my hair. Don't worry.
Your pubic hair?
No, I've not got any of that.
Oh, that's what I was going to say, mate.
See, I was like in the bath, trips, shaving, and like I had my legs up on the sides, and I was pure getting right under my balls and all that. You know what I mean? It was brilliant.
Up my toilet seat.
With Harry's razor.
Mate, I walked in Donica, right? See, we walked in on Donica and he was ripping out his nut once in Joe's gaff. We walked in, I think I've told you this, and he was doing a shite where he's like feet up on the toilet seat like that, and he was like, it's a better floor.
You said that on the podcast the other day.
You're ripping at his nut, mate. Mate, I walked out, listen to this, mate, I walked out with Patreon Extra, we walked in on Donica. We should maybe get Donica on one point, mate. He's just a mad guy. Aye, we even just to sit there and just admire, mate. But Donica, we walked in and this is when we were taking like eckies like constantly, and he was ripping at his nut, and he had like ventured up. He maybe went upstairs to the toilet in Joe's because we were all sitting in his living room and that. And he's ended up, Joe had like this big English bulldog called Wilson, right? And it was just a big slobbery bit. It was a big Wilson, mate. He was a legend, honestly. He just died recently, R.I.P. Wilson, up in doggy heaven. But we walked in Donica, right? So Wilson was a puppy at this point, so he's like, half his teeth were in, but half of them weren't and shit. It was like weird. And Donica was like sitting on the bed. We walked in and we're like, where the fuck's Donica? And we walked in the room. Donica was just like lying back on the bed, pure like chuffed, right? And Wilson was just gnawing at his horn. He was pure. We're like, mate, what are you doing, man? Your horn's in Wilson's mouth. And he was like, it's heavy, good. But I was like, you get away, man.
You didn't see when you're rapping, but you pure like mad
weird sensations. It pure mate, I kind of want to take an eck again soon, by the way.
Mate, I've took one the other day. Where were we when I was skipping for eckies?
With me? Was that
me and Morgan were?
Don't know. Mahoney's?
No, that was Thai place, Thai Bentos. I mate, do you know what so I used to like see when I was in Subway and that, I couldn't feel like the tips of my fingers for some reason. Like I don't know if it's because now when you go outside at the smoking area at Subway, you're pure cold and the water's all, your water's pure cold and it's all fresh and that. For some reason I used to always bite like the skin just at the tips like there. like it's not like biting my nails. It's just that it's tickling my skin. It's so weird. But I done it that much that like when I woke up the next day, I was like touched something. I was like and it was like the full of my fucking skin and tap of my nails all bit off, mate, like pure bad. Because the night before I couldn't feel them. Like I couldn't feel it. So I was just as if I was biting my nails, mate, and it was a pure big perfect circle, like actual pure that colour.
Oh, that gives me the feel, mate. See the stuff you'll do to yourself when you're ripping.
And do you know what that scared me at? And we spoke about this before. Hopefully Joseph's ma's not watching. But
she in the Patreon, no?
Paul is. my ma's, I know. But like we were talking about it with my pal Siggy when we were for mushrooms and that, and we were saying like it's mad how like there is mad shit that you would do when you're taking that. Like he, like for some reason he picked up a knife at one point, and I was like, just like, do you know what I mean? Just like watch, because remember we were on acid and that. It's like it pure like, I don't know.
I reject shit like that.
He goes
that's
like
a pure classical view. That's like your anxiety.
Because
like,
if you
think you're showing films and all that, but you think that's a thing, but it's never going to happen.
See when he takes mushies, mate, he just walks about canals and all that, like mad shit that's like, no, you might fall in. Like just walks, like crosses the road.
Mate, but you're never like, see when you take shit like that, I don't think you're ever of like, I'm going to now run a, like you don't, it's not like that sort of trip in it, no?
You're more likely to though, like, because you're more...
Just what you've been told things.
I think you're less likely to, I think you're that, trying in your own head, you're like, oh, I'm never crossing that, and like, you would look and it would look like an ocean or something, you're like, oh, no, like, so
no,
you'd
I know what you
automatically...
mean, but it can go the other way, because I was thinking...
Maybe if you've taken it up, maybe you've taken it up.
I was like, a tab of acid and 3 grams of mushrooms, which is like a lot, and I was like thinking about like, so yeah, if it was like a sharp knife, like you would, because you kind of like the same thing, you'd stay that with your skin and it would just be a big hang off and be like, what have I just done? No, what I mean, it would be pure easy to like hurt yourself. Because your mind has got the barriers doing what's possible in the physical world. Because you're not constrained by like, I shouldn't do that. Like you would just go have a knife and just.
You're like open for wonder sort of thing. Like I wonder what that's like.
But no even cognitively doing that. I wonder what that's like. Just like holding something and just being like, I was holding that, and then
I don't really get like that.
I think you'd get the same feeling.
I can imagine it.
Oh, you can see how you get to that.
I think, see if you opened your horn open, right, and you were in acid, I think it would just be like what it would be like, but a lot better. You'd get the same mad weird feelings. Think about it, because if you look at like chicken wings, right, you get like, whoa, that looks pure fucked and all that. It goes all disgusting.
Like the chicken wings for acid.
And it's like pure, it's like horrible, and you're like, oh, so imagine that was your skin. It would be utter like, it would be like, you would feel horrible.
Hypersensitive to
you wouldn't be like, oh, that's cool, and like pure do that. I don't
the complete other way.
No, but I don't even mean like, that's what everyone's saying. I know I don't think you'd do that, but I don't mean like you would go, I wonder what this feels like. I just mean like you're more uninhibited. Do you know what I said? I was trying to uninhibit your sexuality if I was feeling your arse. Said that he was like, come round, and I was like, right, I'll try and make you. Said something pure creepy, and then you automatically thought of John Wayne Gacy.
Oh, that was a pure John Wayne Gacy quote here. I'm gonna come round and tan your ass, boy. It was like, whoa, man, Jamie, we're doing a podcast.
Chill.
But we need to get ahead to the game, man.
Why tell the troops what we're up to now?
So,
I know. Do you want to get changed?
We need to get changed into our suits, man, but this is just a wee bonus. Oh my god.
What's happening, troops?
Troops, Patreon troops, we're back. Back again, man. We love yous.
They're the big dogs, the real ones.
Normally, we would come on, we'd fuck about for a bit. We would maybe, who knows, tell some tales, some tribulations, some
spurious facts,
some nonsense. But Gary Buckets, the legend, the Hall of Famer.
Woo! What a boy!
Right there.
There's a bucket there and all.
Oh my god, so it is. Mate, they were the days. But Gary Buckets, who has decided to go for it. He's chose to be a director here, and I mean, here we are.
Right, mate. They probably shape him up to be one of the best, mate.
I would say one of the best. I would say, honestly, this is the most amount of research we've done for any topic.
Oh, that's trips.
We've got bits of paper in that.
I've got paper.
We've got bits of paper. We've got
rum and.
Tell the people what you're drinking.
I'm drinking a rum and a Monster, mango Monster. And then I've got a wee, actually let's just get a crack. It's a Saturday and Evan drove. This is a lovely Cronenberg 1664.
Oh, baby.
Joseph's got 3 and all.
I'm half cup.
Aye, so we're going to get into it. So it's not just. Right, so do you want to explain what?
Well, I say the topics.
Bucket Boys.
So-
Bucket Boy.
Bucket boy. I wonder, like, with a name like Gary Buckets, right? What a fucking legendary name.
Oh, mate,
Let's just
unreal.
tell the history of Gary Buckets and myself. So, I used to go on TikTok live sometimes, mate. Not a lot. Were you going to downgrade my can for your drink? Mate, do it.
'Cause it's glass, I was thinking.
Aye, fair dues, mate. But
Sorry, mate. Start again.
it's all good, mate. So I'm Gary Buckets. So I used to go on TikTok live from time to time. Saying things and see, to be honest, I don't really know what to do when I go on TikTok live. It's a bit, I don't know, it's weird. It's a bit of an art being on TikTok live
What,
for people that are good at it.
Are you like just kind of left to just?
There's nobody, I mean, unless you let people join, there's nobody like talking back to you. Where you going?
Mate, I'm just going to grab my glasses.
Like, people obviously go in and like are selling stuff, or like a lot of people just join each other and then do my things. But I used to just go in and just be like, blah blah blah. Don't really bother now. But when I was on, this name kept popping up, Gary Buckets, Gary Buckets, Gary Buckets, and I'd be like, because a big part of my personality is buckets, to be honest. So his name did touch my heart immediately, and I was like, I need to. I mean, is this guy's real? Is the real name Buckets? And he was like,
or is he that notoriously
like,
full of buckets?
Is he that synonymous with buckets that when he's making usernames for things, he actually adds the word buckets?
Aye.
Which either way I would have respected 100%, but he was like, it's my real name, my name's Gary Buckets.
Unreal.
So I'm like, mad, right? So then one day I'm got to uni, right? I get the train, party, walking up Byers Road, and I had earphones in. I just remember like hearing like somebody shouting at me, like half out the earphones. I turned around and it was just like 2 guys in like worky gear, just like, oh, what's happening? Like, look, mate, I fucking love the videos and that. And I was like, oh, right, brand new, mate, aye, cheers. And like, I was going to be late for uni and that, but I was like, fuck it. I talked to them for 2 seconds. Uni's fucking shite anyway. So I was like, what's happening, boys? Blah, blah, blah. Aye. And then I'm talking to them, and then one of them whispered in my ear, here, by the way, I'm Gary Buckets. And I was like it went for just being a mad normal interaction to me being like I wasn't expecting it.
Aye.
So I was like, oh my god, Gary Buckets, what is happening?
You were more starstruck. You were like the.
I was meeting Gary Buckets, mate, to be honest. There was another handshake after that to solidify that he told me this information. And I was just like, fucking what an honour it is to meet you. And now we're here.
The first ever director of the gaff. Sorry, Joseph. You're not the first director. It's
So Gary, come in. Joseph, you can go, mate. Go in, Gary.
no,
boy.
but in all seriousness, mate, what Gary's chosen for us to talk about is amazing. We want to like let all the troops know everything we're going to talk about.
Aye, right.
Right, so we're going to talk about alien. So what Gary asked for was alien abductions, specifically
Yes.
Travis Walton's abduction story. So I'm going to be covering that, and
Well, I'm going to be... So, but didn't want to just do that, because, like, when I work for a company, I like to over-deliver, yeah? So, we're going to look into the first ever reported alien abduction case in the US.
woo,
Betty and Barney Hill. And, wow, I had never heard about this before we looked into this, and all I can say is, Mamma mia.
Mamma mia.
It's going to get tasty. It's going to get
spicy.
It's going to get spicy. It's going to get maybe a bit sexual at times.
Oh.
But hey, it's on good nature. Also, we're going to be looking into another thing Gary asked for. There's recently been a couple of discoveries about the Amazon, which we didn't know before. Recent discoveries. They're finding some things. So we're going to cover the Amazon sort of in greater detail than just what's been happening recently.
Aye.
But and then Jamie's got a bit about what's
I was just going to say I've got a wee like surprise watch along in the middle.
Right,
The links
nice.
the two. I won't like. I'm not going to leave it on the gym, Evan.
No, it's never a good idea, mate.
So we'll just leave that for the listeners, the viewers to look forward to. Do you know what I mean? A wee secret surprise.
An Easter egg, I believe they called Joe's that right? An Easter egg in a game.
Just a wee one.
Just a tiny
Just a wee-
Easter egg.
a wee nugget.
A wee nugget of knowledge. But I mean, what we're going to start with, this is the thing, people, right? We have looked into this quite a good bit, so we don't want to fuck about for ages, because we end up, when we do these, right, and you listen to them back, you realise that we don't talk about the thing for about half an hour. So we can't be doing that, because this is too good to be missing it on.
This is genuinely, right, not even just saying this, like, see the amount of effort we've put into this one video for, like, because we were like, it's a Patreon, it's the first, like, directory of the Patreon, like, the amount of research, the hours that we've put in, like, looking up this shit, watching different documentaries and films and shit. So, like, this is just going to be merry, like, instead of us fucking about and then going, so that was a conspiracy theory and all that, it's going to be like,
we're going to get right to it, people.
This happened.
So what we starting with? We starting with Big Travis?
I think so, mate. I think so. I think that's a good place to start. So, on November 5th, 1975, Travis Walton was allegedly abducted by aliens while on his way home from logging in the National Forest in Arizona. So he's a logger, mate. This guy, this Travis Walton.
It's just, can I guess what a logger is?
Of course you can.
Right, because I don't know. I'm going to guess, is it to do with logs?
Aye.
Okay, good start. Does it involve maybe the moving of logs?
To an extent, brother.
Is Travis Walton fucking logs, bro? Is what I want to know. I'll cut to the chase. What's happening, mate?
So are you coming off the bat as he's a bit of a weirdo for this? That's where you're going with this?
I don't trust anybody that's involved in logs, bro. Right?
Mate, I think, I'm the complete opposite, because I think logging's a noble trade. So logging trips, this guy's a logger out in Arizona, right? So what that means is him and his buddies, his workmates, whatever you want to call them, go out all day, no matter like rain, snow, wind, fucking beating down sun, and cut down trees, or like make wee trails for like the council and all that. So the council of Arizona, it's not called the council.
So boring.
But I think that's like that's a hard working guy, you know what I mean? That's a good working class man. You know what I mean?
Alright, fair dues.
Trustworthy, that I think a logger.
Alright, I don't know if I'm trusting Travis so far, but keep going, bro.
Right, so they were out logging in the National Forest of Arizona, right? They were coming home, it was a late night of logging.
As it always is.
Him and his 6 co-workers witnessed a bright orange light above the trees in the woods while driving home in Mike Rogers' truck. So Mike Rogers is Travis Walton's good pal.
Right.
He's also, it's his brother-in-law now. Like even at this time as well, used to go out with his sister, and they were just.
He went out with his own sister, man?
No, Travis Walton went out with Mike Rogers' his sister.
Mike Rogers' whose sister?
His own sister.
Oh, that's disgusting, man.
No, so like that's who he's the kind of boss of the loggers, know what I mean? So they were in his truck coming home, right? They were expecting it to be they said in their interviews it could have been a late night hunter with a fire. Like a fire, and like, but how weird's that there's like late night hunters, like pitch black, and you're out hunting, mate?
Would you just to like break this up, right? Just in terms of just hunting in general, right? What do you think of hunting?
It's no good, mate. Unless it's like.
Do you think, Joe? Do you like a bit of hunting? Would you go hunting?
I saw. What was it when like Richard Brand? What do you call him?
Richard Dixon.
Russell Brand, and he was on Joe Rogan, and he was like, it stops someone from dying or something.
It's like a more natural life cycle or something like that.
That's called like culling a few. Like you cull them, and it's not like killing because it's like to help them.
There's like you get things as well, like invasive species that like are worse for the ecosystem. Like there's these pigs, like wild pigs, and like there's places where like they are in the world that like they are damaging the life cycle of that place because they're killing too many things that are essential in that ecosystem. So it's actually better for the environment to get rid of them.
Like locusts,
but they just can't get rid of them, mate.
Like locusts are a pure detrimental thing to the ecosystem, aren't they? They just go through crops.
They are kind of the poster boy for
bad
being a bastard in the ecosystem.
Aye, that's like God's fucking bastard, isn't it? That's biblical, mate.
God's got a crazy way of punishing us, man.
Aye, so they were expecting it to be like this late night hunter, fucking weirdos. Whoever's late night hunting, I mean, know them. But then when they approached the light, they were about 30 yards away, and they stopped the truck because they realised it was some kind of UFO. And all their descriptions, it's like your classic UFO, not like the pure saucer one.
The classic shape.
Aye. So it was about 20 feet in diameter, so 0.1 cineworlds in diameter. It was 8 feet high, which is 0.0387 cineworlds.
Fucking
that's
hell,
just like,
0.
that's where the cineworld scale falls down in it when it's that small.
That stops being impressive at this point, mate.
So it was 8 feet, so like a couple of feet taller than a normal person, and then 20 feet wide, which is like 3 people or maybe 4 people lying sideways. So it's not that big. Think about this mad ship. Do you know what I mean?
Just a wee one.
Just a wee dafter one, aye. But see, at this time, right, see Travie, right, he was a bit of like me and you. He was a bit of a jokester. Travis Walton was a jokester, mate. He used to always have, like, see, because I watched the film for this, I know.
You see, to be honest, Travis Walton sounds like a guy who would like own a joke shop or something like that. Jokes. Now, like, what's that one? Tam Shepherd.
Travis Walton's Emporium or something.
Travis Walton's Emporium. You can go and buy like fucking a toothbrush that you can fucking eat. Or shit like that.
I know, but so in the film, it like had him like. He was on a skateboard or something. It's 1975. I don't know if they had skateboards. He was on like it was like
they had skateboards. No, well, nah, skateboarding's I knew.
So it was a motorbike or something, and then he like jumped to the fence and he was just a bit funny. Like, see when you see him now, mate, Travie Walton's like not a happy guy.
So before this, he was like a total different guy.
So he was the big joke on that, and he always tried to make. See, he's like this Mike Rogers, his pal. Used to always try and make him laugh, and everybody worked to laugh all the time. So he was like, I'm going to go and see what this UFO is. I'm going to go and try and he was standing underneath it like that, and he was like bamming them up and doing wee dances and all that. And then, I'll just go back to this, sorry. Everybody in the truck was shouting and bawling for him to come back. When what they described as a bluish light came flying out the saucer and directly hit Travis. He got slightly lifted off the ground and thrown back 10 feet, like back like that. At this point, the rest of the crew fucked off in fear that he was dead. So there was 6 in total.
Right.
Him and 5 others. Mike Rogers, who was maybe his best pal, they seen this UFO.
So 5 other people were there?
Aye.
Right, so like there's 5 witnesses for this?
Aye. There's 5 witnesses and him and his thing, mate.
Fucking hell, I never realised that.
Aye, mate, sorry, I thought I said before. So it was a crew.
No, it was I'm just like learning about this now, mate. That's what I'm saying.
It was like a logger crew. So it was him, there was a guy called Dallas who was like, he was heavily suspected in it. Like, see when we'll get onto this a bit later. The different kind of characters, and they were all very like truthful. And like one of them owned the logger business. One of them like went to chapel every Sunday and he helped out in the community and all that. Like they were like decent members of society.
Mate, Jimmy Savile went to chapel every Sunday, but
that is true.
And he's maybe the least trustful guy maybe ever.
If I thought, would you trust him with all that?
I'd trust him to get me in the Big Dipper or something. That's what you'd do.
I'd trust him to watch the cat or something. It was only untrustworthy in one way. It was the worst way.
We're in humans, which unfortunately humans are quite a kind of large part of our lives.
They're a big deal.
Yeah, I mean, well, I don't know.
I'm not trying to say this right. I don't, but humans are kind of a big deal.
Allegedly. Nah, you won't get cancelled, mate.
What, humans being a big deal?
Mate, there's a lot of people out there that aren't the kind of humans now, and what they will do is sort of no stand for that.
I think you're a lizard person after that journey in your motor, about 40 degrees Celsius, man. Seeing your wee tongue come out, split like that.
Cold-blooded assassin. But so right. There's five people seen this, all his pals and shit.
Yep. And then one guy called Dallas, who was a drifter, who we'll come on to him a bit later. He's not really that important, but the main people are Travis Walton, his brother Dwayne, I think he's called, Mike Rogers, who was his pal who witnessed it, and Dallas, who witnessed it, who was his kind of enemy. Like they always argued in that.
Right, he was.
So he was thrown back 10 feet, right? And then the rest of them seen that and they were like, he's obviously dead. That thing, whatever that is, has just shot him. So they turned the truck around and fucked off, right? But they all went to this place, and it was like, and they decided that the Mike Rogers, who was Travis's pal, they was saying, no, we need to go back and see if he's there. We need to go back. Like, we shouldn't have went away. We need to see if he's all right and stuff.
The good cunt.
Aye, and the rest of them were like, no. So I think 2 people went back in the motor to see him, and then like 3 made a fire and stayed where they are and said, come back and get us when you're like on your way back. We're not going back there.
Well, I haven't, see, to be honest, at first I was a bit like fucking rats, but aliens, mate.
I think that's for leaving, but
I mean, aye, man, but
you can't. We can't sit here and go, I wouldn't have left.
aye, like
No.
it's more like the type of thing like, a guy fucking hit somebody you were away or something. Not
Aye, well, that's the big thing with the film now. That was turned into a pure big thing in the film, but he was like, no, it wasn't a big thing. Like, there's a lot of, so I meant to say, by the way, troops, there's so many different versions of this story, but I'm going with what Travis Walton and the witnesses said, so this is like for the horse's mouth. For the horse's mouth.
And it doesn't get better than a horse, mate.
No, it does not.
Some of the best mouths.
But so
I'll keep the bestiality away for this one.
Aye, so about 15-20 minutes later, they decided to return. Well, two of them decided to return to see where they left Travis. But both the UFO and Travis were gone. They searched for him for about an hour, hoping they tried to get away from whatever it was, but he was nowhere to be found. So that's another thing. Nobody actually seen the abduction.
So what's the point up to like what people seen him getting hit with the light and
him getting hit with the
10
light.
feet,
Aye.
like, but push back to aye.
Aye.
So then they all left before any of the abductions sort of took place.
Yep. And the kind of the theory around this by Travis himself and by like mad ufologists, ufologists.
What a terrible word, man. That's too hard to say, man. Give us a break. It's a complicated subject enough, man. They throwing words like UFO.
UFO.
When do you change your role? I don't know, man.
Nah,
when do you start?
You don't know
L?
if you're coming or going. It's like cooperative.
Oh fuck, cooperative.
My granny says that. I'm going down the cooperative instead of the co-op.
That's like giving it a whole different image, mate.
Cooperative. I can't even do it.
Sounds like a mad army base or something.
But so their theory, the ufologists and Travis himself, is that the ship was trying to take off and it hit him like if you were stood in an aeroplane propeller and the mad thing would it's hit you and it's blown him away, and then the reason they abducted him was to repair his whatever, even if he was dead, to bring him back to life. Aye. Or use their things because they're no here to harm us or whatever. That's his theory anyway. Right. He was like, he thinks they brought him on the ship not to do tests on him or anything, but to repair him because they had blown him away by accident.
Oh really?
Aye, so see, the first rate wasn't like a abduction rate, it was like a we're taking off, and then he thinks whatever that energy that they are preparing out hit him, it's injured him, and they were like, oh fuck, we've just reversed into that.
Oh fuck, I just hit that. I just hit my neighbour's dog, man. Oh fuck, we better help that.
Better take it into the house and get it plastered, and that's what he's thinking. Which is, mate, that is they're a higher being that's hit us with a motor and it's repairing us. That is like us knocking at a rat and being like, oh fuck, I'm going to go and help that. Know what I mean?
At least they helped me. I bet a lot of aliens have maybe blown people away and reversed into them by accident and just thought, oh fuck,
went back here, skidded on them.
Okay, it's just a human, man.
Handbrake on them.
They better actually start showing us some respect. Actually, a big message. If this is anywhere in sort of the outer galaxies of this sort of scientific equation that we're stuck in called life, then get right,
open the window.
Get some respect for us, right? I know we can't do all the flying saucers and that, the levitating, the mind control, the hypnosis, but we're good people
and we're still up here. We've got up here on our little G4 Claims got us up here.
I know, a wee Scottish company. No, mad.
Oh no, actually the Patreon paid for us to come up here.
The Patreon did actually for this
the Patreon sorted the rocket.
The Patreon plane, mate. But aye, what were we saying about Travis?
Right, sorry, so I'll get back to it. So aye, he wasn't there, right? So he's maybe ran away and that. They'll search for him for ages, he wasn't there. So they go back into the town around 7:30 PM. I don't know how that works out. It must be dark there heavy early, right? Because it was pitch black when they were there. So they go back into the town around 7:30. And Kenneth Patterson called the local deputy sheriff, Chuck Ellison, right? So Kenneth Patterson's one of the, witnesses of the event, and he's phoned the deputy sheriff to tell him, like, this just happened. Do you know what I mean? And they were sitting in a wee cafe at the time, because they were like, they were all shell-shocked and all that, and distraught. So the deputy was obviously sceptical of their account of what happened earlier that night, even though all the men were very distraught. In fact, later on, he was quoted saying if they were acting, they were very good at it. Like, they weren't. And these are loggers, these are the mad actors who can...
like, how could they all just become pure amazing actors? Like, I know. It's just like... It's like it is hard, isn't it? Because I don't think people are kidding on when this shit happens. Like
No.
a lot, like obviously a lot of people are kidding on, right? But there are some people that I think things happen to, right?
Aye.
And it's like, who knows where it was, but something happened.
Aye.
Like something.
Aye, mate. Like
I don't
it's
know,
weird.
It's a weird one, isn't it?
It's weird as well. Like that Travis Walton says, like he said, see when he goes to, 'cause he obviously goes to like alien and like extraterrestrial conventions and like people
What,
talk
now,
about. Aye, like and tells his story.
This is the question.
It's always in conventions.
Conventions.
But
Right, no, but this is the thing, right? This is a question I'll ask you about this, right? I don't know if you'll get to this, innit? The question you need to ask as soon as you hear one of these stories is, has he made any money off this?
no, his life's pure ruined. Like, no his, but the other four's life are pure ruined. But he would have made money. Like, he probably hasn't had to work because he gets paid to turn up to conventions and stuff. He probably has, but see, like, I'll get on it. There's a couple of reasons that people say, "Oh, this is what's happened," and I'll say them. I'll say them at the end, right? So, at this time, the deputy called Sheriff Marlon Gillespie, who came down to interview the men with Officer Ken Copeland. I'm just telling you the names to set up the story. You can imagine Ken Copeland. What would he sound like?
That's the mad pastor guy.
The pastor?
Aye, the mad pastor. That's
The guy that makes all the pasta?
Pastel, mad.
Pastor.
That's the mad like, guy on the telly and all that. It says everybody was a demon in that.
I've not seen him. Oh,
Is that the same guy?
Kenneth Copeland.
Nah, it was the same.
I know. It wouldn't be
Kenneth
the same.
Copeland's the most like cap
No,
name ever, man.
this is like a cap, so you can imagine him. He probably talks like, "I'm Kenneth," like that, right? So that's what I'm spelling these names out for, right? So they decided to get a search team together, right? It was like 200 men, Dugs, helicopters, the lot out to try and find them, right? There was no trace of him anywhere, or the disc-shaped object that the men said that had struck Travis. The police were beginning to suspect foul play. So because Travis went missing and they've told this mad story that's pure no believable, the police are obviously like, yous have obviously took him, yous have killed him or something.
I'm not making up a mad elaborate
like you
story
were out
for
in the
it.
woods and you said, "Oh, no, UFO came," and that. So they were like, obviously yous murdered them, right? That's just as simple as that. So now these 5 guys were like the main suspects of this murder, but because he was a murderer at this point, he's been missing for a day.
And they only do 6 people that know him.
I think by this time it was about 3 days and it went worldwide, mate. Like there was like Australia, Japan, every country knew about this because it's a mad like it's a story about like either a murder or a UFO abduction. So that's like worldwide news in 1975. It would be the new, do you know what I mean? Because it'd be like, oh, either way it's mad. They've either murdered him or he's went missing and did this or whatever.
Something crazy's
It's
happened either
interesting,
way,
aye. So this was a pure worldwide thing. So as I say, the men were just like, "No, we've lost our pal." That Mike Rogers was like, "I'm no talking to the police and that, like I'm sad." Like
You're traumatised.
Couldn't go back to his work. The logging contract was off the table, bro.
No, man.
I know. So but then the police said, right, we're going to do a polygraph test, which is like a lie detector to these 5 guys, right? So the test was taken by the men on November the 10th by Cy Gilson. So Cy Gilson was like, they were going like that in the documentary, "This guy's the best polygraph detector in all of America." That shit. It was like meant to be the pure top dog.
King of the polygraph.
But mate, see polygraph tests, see lie detectors, they're pure like, they're nothing.
They're no accurate.
Aye,
Like, you can easily pass one if
aye.
you're like so. Like I think what happens is as well. Like see, like my sociopaths and that, they can pass them because they don't have
the fear.
They don't have the fear of lying. So so just
Exactly.
Aye.
And there's ways you can just hold your breath and shit. So these cunts might as well have just fucking shat in their hands and clapped or something instead of doing this, but I'll tell it anyway. So during the polygraph, the men were asked questions such as, "Did you cause harm to Walton? Are you telling the truth about the UFO? Do you know where his body was buried?" They're the kind of questions he was asked, right? All of the men answered truthfully to the questions except Alan Dallas. So Alan Dallas' test came back inconclusive, but this guy was like a drifter. He had just came from, do you know what the documentary and like the film like portrayed him as? Kind of looking like one of the Manson family.
Aye.
But kind of hippie-ish junkie.
creepy looking, like,
and they said like
nice
he
hippie.
just turned up in the town like 2 weeks ago when they papers his name in it, and he was like a weirdo, right? So it was like, this cunt's done it. Like that's what they was kind of gone for. But in Big Kai Gilson's report, he stated, "These polygraph examinations prove these 5 men did see some object they believed to be a UFO, and that Travis not Walton was not injured or murdered by any of these men on that Wednesday night. So polygraph test passed. It was like, at that time, that was like, oh fuck, oh, they're no guilty then. So they were trying to find like a kind of killer, right? But late in the evening on November 10th, Travis's brother got a phone call from someone that claimed to be Travis Walton. The low raspy voice on the line said, "This is Travis. I'm at a phone booth at that Heber gas station and I need help. Come get me.
Bring me a log. Bring me a log.
I need a fucking log.
Give me a log to fuck boys."
Right, but because of the attention that the story had gotten in the last 5 days, he thought it was a prank and he almost hung up the phone. But the man on the phone expressed again that he was Travis and he needed help. So they went and got him and he was goosed. He was like huddled up at the wall. He was wet, shivering. He had clothes on, but they were all weird, gooey, like humidy kind of.
So he got in the log then.
It was going like it just kept going. The being's not. It was like, oh fuck, they couldn't like
tweaking.
Talk properly and stuff.
Tabby tweeting.
It was like malnourished. He had lost he hadn't ate in 5 days, but it's a weird one. He hadn't ate in 5 days, but he had the right amount of electrolytes and nutrition in him. As if like whoever had took him
up or something.
had like been giving him something that was like a mad shot or something that just kept him alive, but it wasn't proper food or anything. Do you know what I mean?
This is like obviously I'm going on to one after this, but all these things are like, you learn like it's not just about like when people say aliens have abducted them and done stuff to them, it's always mad obscure stuff that the aliens have been able to do. It's not just necessarily they broke me on and fucking they were flying about in the world. It's like they're able to like put their hand over you and like you don't feel pain and all that and stuff, and like just doing crazy superpower shit.
So the first thing he remembered was waking up and thinking he was in the hospital because he was like sore and he was like in that kind of weird humid room, right? He was laid out on a table and he had a dim light above him. He said it was dim, which is quite weird. Like you always expect like futuristic lights and all that, but the way he described this was kind of like dingy,
like a mad hospital, like a mad low budget hospital,
a pure like Chechen hospital or something.
Hail Myers or something.
Fuck, he's go right. So he said it was like muggy and warm, like it was really humid, like a rainforest. It was like really, really humid. And when he first opened his eyes, he looked around. He seen 3 figures standing around him, which he thought were doctors. But then when his vision cleared, he realised that these 3 beings were not human. He described the beings as less than 5 feet tall, having large dark eyes, large heads, and small facial features, such as small nostrils and ears. Your fucking classic alien depiction, mate. Aye. Like this is
run of the mill working class alien.
Aye, this isn't your Quiet Place or anything, mate. No, this isn't your Rick and Morty. This is like Paul the alien, like that pure. So it's the classic, mate, and this is why we've got all that art. You know, like that's why we've got like the cartoons that depict Roger the alien and that because of shit like this.
I don't know if you've heard of this, right? But there's a theory like about aliens which I think is very interesting, right? It's like, so you know how the shape of aliens, right? Like what they are, tiny, like small bodies, big heads, like the build that they are, right? People think that that is us visiting for the future because of like the way our bodies and shit go.
Because it's humanoid.
So it's like it's us when an alien comes to Earth. It's us for the future traveling back in time to certain areas and places.
So this is like, mate. In this, we'll get onto this, but the aliens didn't talk. They didn't even like communicate with each other. They didn't have like they had features, but they didn't smile or anything. They were just like,
aye.
And then like that, like Travis Walton's theory is that's the way we're going. Like we send catch you, bro, instead of like, do you know what I mean? Like we are slowing down with like communication a wee bit.
Oh, absolutely.
And then he thinks they were telepathically going like, what is wrong with this human? Like, do you know what I mean? Teacher, when they're sitting this way, and it's like just pure. The language would have been.
That's exactly where we're going, man.
Aye.
It really is. Like, got on a bit of public transport and that. Let's see if you had a video for like the 70s on a bus compared to now, like the amount of people that would just be sitting talking to each other. I mean, I know they didn't have anything else to do apart from talk to each other.
Aye.
But like communication with each other is a pure essential part of being alive and
Aye.
feeling good and being a human. So, and like with emotions and learning how to react to people and
being
stuff.
empathetic and stuff. Empathetic. Being fucking pathetic.
What is it? Is it convention?
Convention. Then Travis, he jumped off a table and he hit one of the creatures, right? He like backhanded it to the chest like that. And
Travis got hands?
I mean, it was.
You didn't say that.
The log hands.
Log eye.
Aye, he's a logger's hand, right? So he said he struck it with the back of his fist, and he mentioned that it wasn't as solid as a human. It was really light, and it just fell back dead easily. Like, what I imagine is like, see a wee great granny? Have you ever like
Backhanded a gran?
Mate, see if you go at your great granny, she'll just fall on her arse, man. Like there's
You do that,
no.
eh?
No, I think about it like see like a Wayne.
So
see,
he thinks
about Barton grannies, right? See like a Wayne. See if you're ever like play fighting with a Wayne. See how light it is. It's heavy, like surprising. Do you know what I mean?
You're like, whoa, like,
Aye.
I know what you mean. Like if you're playing football, where like,
And you just push a Wayne that falls. You're like, what?
I know.
I'd hardly even touched you, mate. Like,
fucking up.
So that's how he described these aliens, right? He stood up. The aliens didn't react at all. He grabbed the nearest object to try and fend them off, right? So try and protect himself. He found a long, thin glass cylinder, like a kind of beaker thing. It was 1.5 feet but thin, and he tried to smash it off the table to use as a knife. He's like actual a mad bar fight, like pure smash. And he's gone
Mate,
like that.
loggers don't fucking
No, they do not. But the thing didn't smash. It was like, it looked like glass, but it was trying to smash it, and it was like the most solid thing in the world, which is mad. Like one of their mad materials have got up there.
Mad super material. It just doesn't
That's
smash.
how they discovered plastic, man.
Aye, aliens. Aye. He couldn't manage to break it. He started to yell at them, "Keep back!" No, keep back. I don't know what it sounds like. He started to yell at them, "Keep back!"
Oh, but I hope it is like that.
The whole time they never tried to communicate with him, or from what he could tell, each other. As I said, right. The 3 aliens fled the room. After they left, they decided it was a good time to try and find a way to escape. He left the first room and headed down a narrow circular hallway, which he describes as looking like it's alive. It's pulsing and shit. It's not like a mad metal, like see the corridors we've got up in the ship and that. No, like that. It's like kind of looks like it's alive, veiny and shit. Do you know what I mean? As if the ship is actually a being.
Aye, like a life force, like a oh my god.
Because it's not about like as Joseph says, we only ever compare stuff to us, and it's not about advancement of technology. It's advancement of like bio, like, do you know what I mean? It's like it's a mad thing that you can't exactly
sentient. It can be
the ship's sentient, mate. It's like the what do you call that? What do you call the Knight Rider? It's like Knight Rider. Hey Kit, it's Kit or something going on.
Could be.
So he entered a large spherical room with a chair in the middle, right? Like pure Star Trek vibes. He sat at the chair, and it had like, see all the walls and the roof, it was like a big IMAX with hundreds of lights on them. And he was like, what the fuck's this? And see, when he sat down in the chair, he realised that was a big massive window or screen, and there was like a joystick thing next to him, and he was trying to like open a door. So he started doing that, and see, as he was doing that, all the stars started moving as if he was like controlling the ship, or as if it was like a big map of like where they can go, like look at that star, zoom into that planet, boom, and then they're there. Like it was like a mad thing like that. So he got out the chair, he stopped fucking about with the ship, he got out the chair, walked towards an entrance to look for another possible way out, when he heard a noise and turned round. To his surprise, it wasn't an alien but a human wearing a blue suit, a thick belt, and like a kind of space helmet, like a fucking he frantically asked him hundreds of questions all at once. He's like, where the fuck am I? What's happening? What's going on? Like, hiya, what's your name, mate? Where are you from? I would say like a Rangers and that. So he was asking this guy, because it was just a guy, but they said the only difference is he had gold eyes, gold irises, right? The man simply grabbed his arm and motioned for him to follow him, and he did. Travelled down a long corridor. The man led him into a large room that was shaped like a kind of sideways cylinder, like a can cut in half. He said it was kind of like a hangar, like an airport hangar kind of thing. There was 3 shiny 40-foot saucer-shaped ships. That's another thing.
This is what I don't get, right? See, yesterday, so if you said, what did you have for lunch yesterday? I would take a bit to remember what that was.
Aye.
So how the fuck does he remember every single part of this so vividly?
Well, see, the thing is, he was away for 5 days. Like, this is literally, I'm just remembering, like, this is the highlight
5
package,
days
bro.
worth.
Aye.
So like is it like being on Love Island where, you know, when they want to do wee things with you when you're venturing about, it's great, but most of the day you're kind of sitting about waiting for sort of kind of like, oh, she's dead, oh my god. So who's even the presenter for Love Island now?
Ian Starland.
He's not the presenter, is he?
No, I've not watched it since she died, man. R.I.P. From there, the man continued to lead them down 2 other hallways into a room that contained 3 other human-like people, like actual people with these gold eyes. This is like a subsection. You can get in a big rabbit hole about these types of aliens. Like, that's a mad type of alien.
So what,
apparently.
like they're like half human or something?
They're just human. Like, all the people say, like, that's that gold eye thing and shit. That's
right.
like a type of alien. Like, because you get different types
Greys
of aliens.
and shit, don't you?
Aye, greys. So the original ones in this story were greys, and then he's went into these which are called humanoids. Something else. I should have looked that up. I forget. But they led him to a table, covered his face with something that looked like an oxygen mask, and after that he awoke by the gas station in Heber, Arizona, and saw a disc-shaped object flying away. So, see, mate, see, just after this, he tested negative for drugs and alcohol. Like, obviously, he was fucked. Like, he was heavy gubbed.
This is what I don't get, mate. Like, this is what I like about like stuff like this, right? So obviously, see when Travis Walton is telling this, or whoever he's telling it to, right? There is no physical way that you could ever prove that he was 100% like right and this actually happened, right? So all that we've got is physical evidence. What's happened to him? You know, like, is he alright? Has he got weird marks on him and shit? And if his clothes were covered in goo, his clothes were all fucked and all. He was gone for 5 days. Like, these are all physical things that you're like, how could you explain that? Like, what is the explanation for that other than something like that happening?
Well, people said, right, at the time there was these skeptics that are like, still to this day, pure like see the 6 guys, they like, apart from Travis, the rest of them, their wives left them because all they did was going about it. They couldn't like think about anything else apart from that night. They've carried on. They've still to this day said the same story. There's never been a discrepancy in their stories, which is like impossible under the scrutiny, like how much they were getting scrutinised. Like, there's this guy that, like, to this day, pure, like, he's like a journalist or a research person or something, but he pure abuses them, and like pure, he just hates anything to do with UFOs and all that. So it's like this.
You get people that are totally like, they're not even just like, I don't really believe in it. They're like out to prove anybody who's mentioning it, like, it's false. There's no way.
As you said, there's hundreds of people that just want something. Like, there's like probably, I would say, about at least 100,000 people in the world that make up that they were abducted by aliens just to seem interesting.
Aye, because there's nothing going on. They stay in fucking West Virginia,
Oklahoma or something.
You know, they're going out with their brother. You know what I mean? Like,
it's no happy.
Things are.
He's got a wee dick in that.
Aye.
But there's other things about, like, there's other things about that you're saying about the physical evidence, right? Joe, you might know stuff about this. I don't really, right?
Joe's an evidence kind of guy, man.
Aye, but there was like crystal formations. See where the beam hit? There was crystal formations in the ground that don't occur in America. Like, there's a thing called tritonite or something, and it's like a mad thing that it's a thing in the world, like, it's geology, but like there's nowhere else in Arizona or nowhere else in America that's got that specific type of crystal, and the exact bit that they hit under the ground is all that shit, as if it's whatever their mad energy is, like, diseased the land or something, or like just burnt it, kind of,
like, done like whatever mixed, like the earth mixed with whatever they shot
energies,
made that madness. Joe,
I'm not a crystal lassie. I don't fucking know about that shit, man.
You know? Do you know sleep with a crystal in your neck?
So what do you think, mate? Do you what like, you've obviously, you were the one that like looked into this, researched it and that. Do you, how much do you believe it this?
Right, mate, I 100% believed it until I found something out. I did some digging, mate. I did some snooping about that internet, right?
You're so sneaky, man.
I found about Dwayne Walton and his brother Travis Walton. Both used to have long chats about being abducted all the time. Their dad,
man.
Mate, their dad left them when they were wee guys, and he was a mad UFO guy.
Right,
so that's the only thing that made me like. See, before that, I was like, but mate, see, at the same time,
it's a lot of shit, mate. I'm telling you now. if you like UFOs before you got abducted,
it's a lot of shit.
It's like me saying, I found you this girl and blah blah blah, and then I come back for a holiday and I'm like, I end up shagging her, bro. It's like that kind of like. You're it's something you wanted to happen, and then suddenly it happened and nobody seen it. And
the only thing is, like, see how, like, that's another thing, mate. See the scan of his brain. See, at the time he got like a ECG or a EEG or whatever it was called, and it's like the same one that they use for like pro fighters and stuff. Like, it's like a proper
brain scan thing.
Aye, and he's got like a mad anomaly in his brainwave that only happens if you've been struck by lightning. So that's a mad weird thing, and he's obviously never been struck by lightning.
I don't know, man.
It's weird, mate. It's like, it's something that will pure fuck with your head.
What do you think? Right. So we'll never know. We'll never know if it happened or no. So do you think he's telling the truth?
Aye, he's like, see, when you listen to that guy, mate, like, there's no like, I'm doing this for my own gain. He's fucked with it. He doesn't like UFO conventions. He hates it. He hates like everything today where like he gets annoyed about people being buzzing about meeting him, and he was like, that was horrible. Like, I hated that.
It's like somebody like having cancer and somebody be like, oh my god, can't I make a meeting, talk about it, man. It's like, fuck off,
mate,
man.
This is
the last thing you want to talk about.
And that's another thing, like, they've made a film. The film's called Fire in the Sky, right? It's a good film. I heavy enjoyed it, right? You're like pure into it. There's so much like there's like the fuck the story up something awful, because it's obviously Hollywood. Like, see what I've told you, that's no exactly what it's like in that. But it's a heavy good film, but they make him into like, this is the Travis Walton story, and it makes him look like he's pure, mate. See, in the film, like, they have like a welcome home party for him, and they said this bit's kind of accurate. They had a welcome home party for him, and he's like sitting like, and everybody's like welcome home and all that, and he's pure like, he's all fucked. And then she goes in and she finds him under the table, pure freaking out, and it shows you what he's thinking about, and it's like being inside the spaceship and that. And he was like, no, that's real. I used to wake up with night terrors, just screaming and all that. Like, I don't think this guy's, he's a logger, mate. You need to trust the guy. But as you said, that might not have happened, but I believe whatever he believes is what he actually believes.
He believes in what he's saying.
Exactly, aye. But it could be like, but he has been like regressed hypnotherapy and all that. He's had all this stuff, and it's like nothing's
came back that was like, oh, he's lying.
That's why it's one of the most interesting like ones.
If hypnotherapy worked, you wouldn't get mental people and all that. I mean,
no, but I just mean like he's had like, see,
there's a thing called regressive hypnotherapy, which is all about like, say you came back for fucking, say like, for example, it's kind of used for this shit. It's like, say you were a spy and somebody, they caught you, right, and they were trying to like find out what you knew. It's all about like hypnotising somebody to the point that they're telling the complete truth out of their brain of what happened somewhere. Like, you can't really lie in that hypnotherapy.
The only thing is like, the only thing that's a wee bit hanging about that is, see if like your brain's deeply entrenched in media, you can like there was a guy that got that done, and then he's full like his, like, it was meant to be like, oh, what he was like or whatever else, and it was like all Blackadder, because everything he knew about the past was Blackadder. Do you know what I mean? Right. Like the Blackadder 2 and that, because he pure loved that much. It was like he just thought he was in that. Do you know what I mean?
So it's like
instead of like, but obviously that's different because that's like your pure past life's not that shit. But I just mean like, if you're pure into like watching films and that, you can even believe when you're hypnotised that was your life kind of thing.
Just because you believe it doesn't mean it happened, sort of thing.
Aye. But as I say, mate, he's like no change the story. Like people said, like, see, for somebody to stick to the, like, there'll not to be a discrepancy in 6 people's stories.
What's that, like nearly 40? No, even far off like 50 years.
Aye, that's insane, actually.
That's a long time.
So
mate.
50 years.
I tell you what, man, like, I know you probably, I don't know if you've seen a picture of Travis by this point. He's looking actually, like, what age is he? He's looking actually, I mean,
he must be about 80.
For getting abducted by aliens and being 80, I think he's doing alright.
He doesn't look like, see how he sounds,
he doesn't
though?
look healthy.
He looks like a mad.
He doesn't look exactly healthy, but he's looking alright.
He looks like a, He looks like a failed uni professor or something. A disgraced uni professor.
He's a lumberjack.
He's a
logger.
He's a logger.
He's a fucking logger.
I like lumberjack.
Yeah, that's the golden rule. You never call a logger a lumberjack, mate.
You call a lumberjack a logger and he'll thank you. You call a logger a lumberjack and he'll punch you. Yeah, what do you about that? Send them down. I love saying that now.
But Travis Walton, you know, maybe Travis Walton had caught the alien flu, mate. Maybe he caught that fever, you know what I mean? Maybe he just wanted it to happen.
He was bitten by the alien bug.
Aye, mate. And I think he was under the influence of some Class A drugs as well. I don't think loggers are into their drugs and that. But before that, in 1961, mate, we had Barney and Betty Hill, right? So, Barney and Betty Hill, this is the first widely reported alien abduction case in US history. And it was by a New Hampshire couple named Barney and Betty Hill. So, they claimed to be abducted whilst driving back to New Hampshire, returning from a late honeymoon in Montreal on the 21st of September 1961. And their story, just like Travis Walton's, is thought to be one of the most believable and plausible alien abduction cases in history. So, mate, obviously, the first thing you think about is like, when you hear about people, I got abducted by aliens, you think, right, who, like, what kind of person is this, right? And you get the stereotypical ones that are just like, even I'm sorry, I'll throw Travis Walton in this, like, or like into UFOs and this and that, and then they get abducted, and then they're like, I swear that happened, and no, these two, mate. This is what makes it so credible, right? Because out of them all, these two had probably the least reason to lie about something like this, right?
What were they, pure high ranking?
So I'll go into a bit of background about the couple, right? And this will make you realise why this is not your usual alien abduction case. So Barney Hill was born in 1922 in Newport, Virginia, but he moved to Philadelphia just before he finished high school. So after high school, he joined the army, where he was initially trained as a truck driver, and then he was trained up as a marksman, brother. Ooh. And I'm not talking about the thing you put on your strikers in Ultimate Team and FIFA, mate. I'm talking a real man with a rifle in his arm, a couple of grenades on him, mate.
Getting kill streaks.
Well, for a while, yeah, he sure was, until there was an accident, brother. So this accident that happened to young Barney, an accident involving a grenade which caused Barney to lose his teeth. Lose all his teeth, man.
How does a grenade make you lose your teeth, bro?
The thing is,
and not your jaw.
He had it in his mouth, mate. No, so something happened when he was in the army, and it caused him to lose all his teeth, so he had to get dentures. But this meant, because of this injury, it had to be discharged to the army. So it was like a 3-year service you had to complete in the army, and it was 3 days before he completed 3 years, right? So he didn't even like get his all the perks. He didn't get any of that. But all the reports that the army sent about Barney were like top, mate, like trustworthy, reliable, like consistent, like just what they look for to be in the army, just a trustworthy guy. So he received, as I say, received excellent reports from the army, and then when he left the army, he went to work for the US Postal Service. So Postman Barn, I think we'll call him. Postman Barn. Postman Barn. Postman Barn, and he's gonna get abducted. So Barney, his actual dream job was to be an engineer, but he was denied the chance due to his skin colour.
What was his skin colour?
He was a black man.
Oh, that's horrible.
Barney Hill. That's one of the most black names you can get, mate.
Like Barney Hill?
I think so. Do you think that's a white guy's name or a black?
Hill, the funny guy, is it?
Nah, I think Barney Hill's would you know, assume that's a black guy?
I would have thought that was, see, when you said like Barney Hill from New Hampshire, I was thinking like and you were saying like the least person you'd expect to be abducted. I was expecting like
does this change your perception of Big Barney Hill? Because
I like him better.
He's a more sympathetic character now. So he was denied he was denied his.
So what year was this, sorry?
This is like 50s, mate.
That's horrid,
so
man.
Bound to happen, know what I mean? Just
the way the world was.
It was, mate. So he was denied his dream job, which is a fucking shame for a big Barney boy. But, you know, job with the post office, wee reliable number, good pension, that. So he had. I mean, he was an upstanding citizen, Barney boy. And then we go on to his wife Betty. So Betty Hill was born in 1919 in New Hampshire. She attended the University of New Hampshire, and after graduating, she became a social worker.
Oh, good on her.
So Betty, great citizen. So Betty and Barney ended up meeting when Betty was in the middle of a move and living in a temporary home. The pair began to send letters to each other whilst Barney was still married to another woman. So the first chink in the armour here, the first, you know, the first sort of wee hiccup.
Black mark against his name.
No, is that you can't actually say that. It's a bit
wrong turn of phrase. Chink in the armour's better.
Especially in a case like this, and you're saying, you know, it's a bit touchy. No, but a big black mark next to his name. Carry on. No, but so, you know, I mean, is it a bit of dirty business? Aye, but we're all human, aren't we?
You can't stop love, bro.
Love will never be stopped, and that's by James Blunt.
MC Hammer.
So, so the pair began to send letters to each other whilst Barney was still married to another woman. They became closer. Barney separated from his wife, Barney, and the couple made it official. Woo! Hashtag official, new profile pic. So once they made it official, Barney got a transfer in the postal service near New Hampshire so that they could live together. Aww, beautiful, man. But, you know, Betty was a white woman, and Barney was a black man. And, you know, Barney and Betty Hill were an interracial couple. And this is at a time where you could not be in an interracial couple, mate. It was not an accepted thing. So it was actually dangerous, and it wasn't widely accepted at all in society. So at the time, it was actually forbidden by law in 31 states.
That is
mental. How crazy is that?
That's horrible, man.
This is like 50s, 60s.
Again, good on them, but like that's a classic love story, innit?
Aye, they're defying, you know, the law of the land at that time, which brilliant, mate.
What can be more romantic than that?
It is probably one of the most. What?
Is there a film about this one?
No,
but defo should be.
But we could maybe try and get something to go. Maybe I'll play Betty and Jamie can be Barney.
No,
you know, for this reason alone, right? That makes it kind of odd for somebody to make something like an alien abduction case up, because these are people who are trying to stay out of the public eye. Like, they lived in New Hampshire, they were fine with it. Like, the community, that they all knew them, and they were alright with it, but no in other places. And like, when they would go out places, they would get weird looks. People would say things to them, like harass them. You know what I mean? So these are the people that are going to want to make themselves widely public in the spotlight. Aye, in the spotlight. Like, it's so for that reason alone, they're not your normal sort of people that would make up a story like this. It wasn't just one person who was out in a field himself and that. However, it's not just that reason that make Barney Hill and Betty Hill credible witnesses. So the couple were, as I said, were well-respected members of the community. They both sat on the boards of civil rights groups at that time. So, mate, very good people, honestly, in a time where there was a lot of baddies. Still, there's a lot of baddies right enough, isn't there? They're just well hidden. So they don't, as I said, they don't match the common stereotype of people who claim they were abducted by aliens. So, on to the story of what happened to them, right? So because of all this sort of palaver, right, Barney's working in Philly, Betty's in New H, Barney moves closer, they get married, it's very sudden, very quick, and they realised, hey Barney, we ain't been no honeymoon. So Barney's like, fucking get in the motor, Betty, we got to Niagara Falls, baby. Woo! So they go on a wee, their late honeymoon, like, round of applause for like Niagara Falls, Canada, Earth and stuff like that. Being alive, man. Shout out to everybody. But so they went there, man. Lovely time, obviously. The pair were madly in love. But whilst driving back from Canada through a rural area of New Hampshire called Portsmouth, Betty spotted a bright ball of light in the sky. So she initially thought it was a shooting star. However, it began to move extremely erratically. Barney, the more level-headed of the pair, of course, very down-to-earth man. He tried to play it off by just saying, oh, it was probably some kind of aircraft. He was just trying to probably keep Betty, because that would be your instinct. Like, if you were with your girlfriend, you'd be like, I need to just make sure she's calm here, because I'm freaking out.
Want my whole night.
I know, but that's what Big Barney's thinking about, getting that dippage. But obviously, you know, Barney's
he
probably...
was also a log man.
Barney was a logger, mate, I forgot to say that. But Barney obviously is just trying to keep Betty calm. He's like, oh, it's probably just a fucking aircraft or something. They pull the car over to let their dog out to do the toilet, and after observing the craft, Barney also knew something wasn't right. Barney could see figures on the craft moving around, and the pair began to feel very odd. They got back in their car and began to drive away as fast as they could, but they were followed the whole way down the road by the craft. And they said the craft was just hovering, but it was just like... It wasn't like it was just like there, like it wasn't. They couldn't even sense it moving. It was just as if it was going nowhere,
like no noise and stuff. Just gliding.
Silent, man. So the craft appeared suddenly in front of them on the road, hovering slightly above the ground, completely silent. So Barney, as any good man would, protecting his woman, got out of the car with his handgun and pointed it at the craft, which is hilarious because he's not even got like a big rifle or nothing. I mean, he's got the handgun, which is, I don't know. I mean, he's trying to protect himself, but what the fuck's the handgun gonna do, mate?
He's got the deuce on him, bro.
Yeah, a Kimbo, man. But he got his handgun out and pointed it at the craft, but the craft moved almost instantly to the left of the road. And immediately Barney and Betty started to hear a buzzing noise. He got back in the car and drove home with the buzzing noise ringing constantly until they got in the front door. The pair noticed that their journey, even including the stops, had taken 2 or 3 hours longer than it should have. So like, when they were like almost home. So this is the weird thing about them, right? When this happened, right, during this, like, so this incident, right, that's the whole incident. Them just driving, seeing the craft, and then they're like, oh fuck, like, where, it's like 2 hours just disappeared, mate. Like, right. They don't remember getting, like, they didn't remember all getting taken into this craft or anything like that. The pair, a few days later, decided to go into different rooms and draw exactly what they think they both saw. So obviously they got back for this trip and they were like, what the fuck happened to us there? Like, what did we see? And like, they're obviously thinking like, oh, did we imagine that and that? So Barney had the idea, like, let's go into different rooms and just draw a picture of what we saw. And they came back into the same room and they drawn almost identically the same thing, right? So the beings that Barney could see as well, he got out with his binoculars and looked, and he said, like, again, like your, well, no, it's actually different for yours, because he said they were human-like, but that way he was looking at them and he could tell they weren't human, but he couldn't pick out exactly what it was. But now, like Uncanny Valley, so it's that way you're looking and you're like, I mean, everything seems right about that, but I have a feeling it's no. So it's like, he said that it was like the being started to try and appear human to them to maybe earn their trust or whatever. Aye. So they got back, they done the drawings, they're almost identical, and then, but Barney, with the couple being interracial, didn't want to draw any kind of media or public attention to this, and told Betty that they couldn't tell a soul about what had happened or what they'd seen because he just wants to stay out the public eye. But Betty, the fucking bitch, wanted to go and tell everybody, mate. Betty's like, we need to tell somebody what the fuck's happened to us. This is amazing. Like, we can't just no tell people this. And Barney's like, nah, fuck that, I want to forget about it and that, because at the time, right, like when they were explaining what had happened to him and that, they couldn't remember anything that had happened. They just knew that 2 hours of their life was missing and that. But then they started having dreams, and in these dreams, it was like everything was coming back to them. So like for like weeks after this, like Betty would have a dream that they were both getting dragged onto this ship by the beings that they saw in this thing, and then it was as if they were realising like where the hours went by all these dreams. Like
a jigsaw?
Aye, like, it was like, but it was almost as if the aliens or whatever it was had wiped their brains as soon as they got out, but they were having these like thoughts,
like for their deep subconscious.
Aye, but they were having these dreams that were coming out, and they actually, that's like the reason that it got out, because they couldn't live with, like, they were actually pure dying inside. Like they couldn't sleep. Barney had like PTSD, couldn't go to his work. It had to like it fucked the pair of them up, like Travis Walton. But Betty didn't actually tell everybody, but she wanted to tell her sister, who also claimed to have seen a UFO in the mid-50s, right? So she's like, well, if somebody's going to believe me, it's going to be my sister. The other nutter that's in my family. So I've actually got a video. Joe, could you get it up?
Oh, beautiful.
And this video is Betty Hill's sister that she told. It's her daughter, so it's Betty Hill's niece.
Right, okay, right.
But she's still alive now, obviously. Right, but and you can, we'll see. Play it for 5 minutes 9 seconds.
If we're still recording now, can I say something about Betty and Travis? Betty Hills actually spoke to Travis Walton. She said, like, don't let the media like tear you down, like the shit she'd been through after all this. She was like a mad mentor for him. She actually helped him because she was like the OG of this. Like that's the only thing I know about Betty and Barney Hill was that they were the first ones. I think it was like 12 years prior to Travis Walton or whatever. But let's start the video.
My name is Kathleen Marden, and Betty and Barney Hill were my aunt and uncle. I was 13 years old when this happened.
So you remember that day, in your memory, you remember Betty calling?
Yes, Betty called my mother, who was her sister. I was home from school that afternoon, and it was so shocking to me that I remember it very well.
At that point, was Betty saying they saw something, or was Betty saying we were taken?
Betty was talking about a close encounter with an unconventional craft. They remembered immediately that Barney saw figures on that craft that he described as being clothed in black, shiny uniforms. And almost immediately, she and Barney heard a series of code-like buzzing sounds striking the trunk of their 1957 Chevy. The next thing they knew, as if only a moment had passed, they were 35 miles down the highway. They didn't know how they got there. And then they drove on home, and they found evidence that something unexplained and unexplainable had occurred to them. Betty's dress was torn in several places. Barney's shoes were so deeply scraped that he had to buy new shoes. The watches they were wearing that night had stopped running and never ran again.
So the watches completely stopped, mate. Like, and they never ever worked again for no reason.
We've learned about, you've taught me about the quartz and that, and I mean, the quartz don't stop.
Can it be missing at quartz now?
Their testimony of the sighting is recorded. It's regarded as a strange incident. The subject of the report is unidentified flying object. The report states that radar did indeed pick up an unidentified flying object that night, but that it was a weak return and it could have been a false reading. It also states that while there are some inconsistencies in the story, Barney Hill's, quote, honesty and seriousness appear to be valid. But there was no official final conclusion as to what they had seen that night. At what point do Betty and Barney begin to remember their abduction?
Betty had a series of dreams that began 10 days after the event. They happened very early in the morning, just as she was waking up. And she wondered if they might be real. Barney simply developed post-traumatic stress disorder, and we attempted to help Betty and Barney as a family to find answers.
What brought on the hypnosis? At what point does someone go, hey, you guys should be hypnotized?
Barney ended up taking a leave of absence from work. He had developed high blood pressure, bleeding ulcers, post-traumatic stress disorder, wasn't able to sleep. He was very traumatized by all of this.
Postman Barn.
And so Dr. Benjamin Simon was recommended. the hypnosis sessions began in
This is like the Polygraph guy. It's like, he's the best in the world.
1964.
Okay. And these hypnosis sessions were, or at least partly recorded. There is audio, correct?
Yes, they were recorded on audio tape.
Listen to this.
I don't know where we are. I don't even know how we got here.
They took me and carried me up this ramp. God, I was scared.
They're taking me up to the object. I don't want to go on it. I don't want to. I don't know what's going to happen if I go on it. I don't want to go.
Through separate hypnosis sessions, Betty and Barney remembered in clear detail having their car halted by men standing in the road. Barney realized these were the same ones he saw on the craft. Betty became hysterical at this point. She had never been so frightened in her life. She opened the door to the car and was going to run into the woods and hide. She was intercepted before she could do this. Barney opened the car door. He stepped out and he was taken. He and Betty were escorted down a path through the woods onto a craft. Betty fought. This is how her dress was torn. Barney could feel the toes of his shoes bumping along the rocks. This is what caused the damage to his shoes.
So his shoes came back physically scraped down to like
rooms on the craft where they were given separate examinations. The non-human entities were very interested in their skeletal structure, in their nervous system, in their skin, in what was inside their mouths, inside their ears. Skin scrapings were taken.
These tits, man, aliens. These Terra tits, man. Big Barney.
My face. And I'm crying and I tell him it's hurting, take it out.
All right, get away from me. All right.
Aye, mate. So that is like them during the regressive hypnotherapy. Like it's all coming back to them. What that tools had, but it's the same thing where you're saying like that guy said if they were acting, like. Aye. Fair dues. They deserve all the attention just for the acting skills. But it's insane, mate. So as the pair stated, the beings were particularly interested in the skeleton, the skin, the nervous system, and the inside of their mouth. And what you didn't hear on that is, right, Barney admitted to receiving anal probing. Yes. So my boy Barney was the first to get the digit up the stinker.
Yes.
Big up Barney.
The first to get pegged.
The first man ever pegged. Barney.
And he had the certified lover boy on him.
Mate, so he admitted that was the first. And you know how like that's a common thing that people
like South Park and that.
This is what happens when you go on an alien craft. That's where that comes from.
This is where they came from. And see as well where it was saying like the coding noises, that's like Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Like there's a lot of films that make us like, they're talking shit, 'cause that's what all the films are like.
No, the films are like that because of these stories.
Exactly, mate.
Exactly, man.
But so these humanoid creatures, so these are obviously different for Travis Walton's aliens. So Travis Walton's aliens were like, he said, like your classic alien, as I said, right? And he said they were like kind of expressionless and weird and that. These are obviously different because they're testing shit that's like their nervous system. Like, so see when they said they're particularly, I don't know if you're going to go into it, but they're particularly interested in their skeleton. How did they show that? Because
they were taking samples of their skin and like putting things inside their mouth, like needles inside their mouth, and like testing things. And like, but again, as I said earlier, Betty said that she was saying like it's sore, it's hurting because they had the needle up her navel. Is that she said? So she said that she was screaming and an alien just done that with her hand over her head and she couldn't feel it in any pain.
Oh, that's cool. Good on them.
But so like kind of peaceful beings. But this is, see what you're saying, that's interesting. They're different types of aliens. I was reading this thing and it's like all the reports, there's like categories that are like, there's some that are just like travelling, and then there's ones that are looking to experiment. So like there's
research.
two different. So like it's something to do with like, if you see a white light, they're in peace, and if it's a blue light, they're experimenting or something. There's like a theory about that.
Aye, that's not like concrete, that's not like a thing like you look at for like, oh no, they've got the white light on, we'll just stay here.
Oh, we're alright, fucking hell.
Oh, you're just passing by. Oh, bro.
No, that is a wee bit blue, that. No.
I know, but see what she was talking about, like you're saying, like, got stuff in the mouth and that. See the Travis Walton one, there was a point that this is in the film, and he said it was kind of accurate, but it's hazy. But like they had him down on a table, and they had like this kind of fleshy, kind of wet skin kind of thing, like gooey skin of the tapium, like pure. Now how when you see the cunts that are like get pure spandex on them and it's pure tout to their face and all that, like that kind of going out of the tapium, and then like the cut eyes and a mouth out, and like opened up his mouth, opened up his eyes, and poured mad shit into them. But it was to like heal him.
Aye.
That was their technology. I like see if he was either dead or like if there was something. Say he had both his arms broke or something. They pour that hanging into their eyes, and it's like not a pure, like as you say, like putting your horn in their face. Like that's like even further level. But this one's a mad primitive version of like, this is a potion that will fix that. That's what it kind of came across to me as. So like, obviously they're different, they're experimenting, but it's similar kind of practices. Do you know what I mean?
What you mean. I know what you mean. It's like, whatever, say these stories are real, right? It's like they're genuinely interested in like us in terms of like, but are they trying to figure out what we are? Are they trying to figure out how they could use us, or like, what, do you know what I mean?
I was going to say this at the end, but like, we wouldn't walk by like an anthill and be like, I'm going to go and talk to this wee ant. I'm going to pick this one wee tiny ant up and have a look at its nervous system. What if the aliens that are like coming here and like testing things and looking for us, and like, what if they're like archaeologists for the future? So like they're like, now the way that we travel to like the pyramids and we're like, oh, and these ancient caves and this, like, and we're looking for clues for the past. What if like that is just like future beings looking like to be like, what was the past like, and how like they'll test like rocks and be like, fuck, this is fucking 5 million. I like, what if that's what they're trying to do to us? Like, oh my god, we found a fucking human, and like, well, let's test it. Cut his back open and see what our spine used to be like.
But we used to have bodies, man.
These cunts have got muscles. Can you imagine it, Barry? That's just before we go into the next bit. I was wanting to do a bit of merch, wasn't I? That was like 2 aliens at the top of Evan, like cartoon aliens, like Evan sitting on like a hospital bed, and 2 aliens with big fingers like poking into his brain and all that. Like,
as long as I'm not getting Barney held in it.
I sent you a picture of it and you were like, I think that's a bit complicated for a first merch shop, bro.
It was like these 2 aliens, but they were greys, but we wanted them to look slightly like blues. And I was just like, bro, we need to chill out.
Chill out, mate.
Let's just put an alien head
as soon as he bought me the paper and pens, I was going for it, man. I didn't match it.
It was like pieces of art, man.
It was, mate. It was.
2 pigeons experimenting on you, man.
Oh, yeah.
Mate, never. I don't want pigeons. Look, you know, maybe my own doing. I don't want pigeons synonymous with my name, mate. I want to rid the pigeon culture surrounding me.
Do you want to be known for more than just your hatred of pigeons?
Yeah, I'm more than that.
Do you know the opposite of the song No Scrubs? Now, like, I don't want no scrubs. See the boy against the lassie one of that song? It's called No Pigeons.
What?
He's calling the lassies pigeons, and like the lassie version of Scrub.
Oh, really?
Going like, no pigeons, and and it's the same tune in that.
Versions every song.
I don't know. No, it's just because No Scrubs is like slagging boys, and he's going, you call me a scrub, you're a fucking pigeon.
So pigeon is a derogatory term?
For like, I think it's like lower class women in America in the 80s or 90s or something. Do you know what I mean?
I love a wee specific slagging, like, just in this time period.
You fucking fruit picker.
You fucking fruit. I'm bisexual. I ain't no fruit picker now. But another thing just before we go on to the next bit. Barney Hill also Barney, this fucked his life, mate. Barney also reported to have a perfect circle of genital warts on his pubic area, which never disappeared. A perfect circle. Genuine.
A perfect circle.
The perfect circle.
So I'm imagining this, right? The one of the genital warts is on his, like, the bottom of his willy turning into his balls, and then it goes into like a full sun shape right round his dick on his pubic region.
Pretty much it, aye.
That's amazing. I want that. A bit of art.
Barney Hill, man. Big
Poor
Barney.
Barney. He was a handsome fella, by the way, in that video.
Mate, he could have been anything, Barney, and they fucked his life up, man. But look, we've got more topics to go into. I think Jamie's going to take care of this one.
Oh.
What are we learning about, mate? This is the secret topic.
Right, so the secret topic, Trips, right? So we've been speaking about aliens, yeah?
Oh.
My buddy Evan's going to be speaking about some Amazon tribes, not really tribes, but kind of
ancient
civilizations and stuff. So I thought I'll give you a wee insight to what we're going to be learning about. We're going to be learning about the Dogon tribe, right? So the Dogon tribe are a tribe in Malawi in Africa. There's like 200 villages, 300 villages, 200,000 Dogon, right? I know, and they're surrounded by it seems like a mad armoured wall. Like, see the mountains around them, it looks like they've built walls.
Like on purpose,
aye. But they came for Egyptian people, right? That's the theory, they came for Egyptian people. Their astronomical lore is dated back to 3200 BC. So that's like 5,000...
Good couple of years ago.
5,000 odd year ago, 5,300 year ago or something. And their lore... So the Dogon people's creation myth, so our creation myth is Adam and Eve. Mm-hmm. Their creation myth comes from space. They say that all life on Earth was seeded by amphibious looking creatures who came here a long time ago from Sirius B, which is a companion star of Sirius A. So see Sirius A, that's the brightest star in the sky, right? And they say, see that bright star in the sky? That's got another wee star next to it that's a dead star where so Sirius B here, it's a dead star where all life came from. So, but the thing about Sirius B is it wasn't visible without a telescope until 1872, and it hasn't been photographed by anyone until 1970. The Dogon people could accurately depict this star for over 5,000 years with no Western help at all. And they've got other shit, like they draw like we're going to watch this video that will go right in depth, but they can draw like Jupiter and Saturn and its rings, Jupiter and its 12 moons and that perfectly. It's madness.
That's what I think fucked up about tribes and shit. It's like when they have this knowledge, right? That's like, give me an answer how they know that. Give me a valid answer other than what they're saying how they know that. There isn't.
The only, like, in my opinion, right, Joseph's our skeptic, or in-house skeptic, right? In my opinion, when you watch this video and when you've read the shit I've read about the Dogon tribe, it's like the only explanation is aliens. Which is
in, mate.
It's ridiculous, mate.
I'm right in,
but
mate.
I think we should let the video speak for itself, bro. This is going to be like a wee watch along, similar to
They describe precisely the relationship between a remote African tribe and the heavens.
I'm already scared now.
This tribe believes all life comes from a distant dark star, invisible to the naked eye. Recently, modern science was able to find this star and confirm its existence. Now we must ask, how did a primitive people, lacking instruments of any kind, discover a dark star hidden deep in space?
Aliens. It was aliens, mate.
Fucking aliens.
Aliens turn it off.
Mate, yeah.
It's aliens, mate. Aliens.
Miss. So see, after about 3 minutes, this video gets amazing.
I'm looking forward to it.
Like cliffs on the southern edge of the Sahara Desert live a people called the Dogon. 1,000 years ago, fleeing from warring tribes, the Dogon found refuge here. The Dogon have endured and preserved mysterious ancient knowledge. Knowledge of an invisible star and its movements through the heavens. The hum of the bull roar is believed to be the voice of the sacred star. It calls initiates to a ceremony high in the cliffs.
Maybe it is, maybe they've got a bugger van.
PlayStation 3 playing GTA 5.
Trust me, mate, I tell you, get a couple of high-vis vests on them and there'll be a bugger van there
Dating
in a
back
week.
to a time when the Western world was locked in the Dark Ages, this ritual has taken place year after year.
Didn't sit before the Dark Ages, bro.
During the ceremony, the full spectrum of Dogon knowledge is revealed and passes from generation to generation. A circle within a circle depicts Saturn and its rings, which can only be seen with a telescope. A large circle and 4 satellites. The planet Jupiter and its moons.
How, mate?
How, brother?
How that, bro?
Most remarkable is this symbol.
I believe that guy, the guy
It
that's
represents
pointing.
the orbit of the Dogon star, a phenomenon deep in stellar space. Yet,
And was the pattern
no
that
such
follows.
orbiting star is visible from the Earth. It was not until this century that Western astronomers began to suspect its existence. A desert tribe called the Dogon, isolated in the African wilderness, may have identified a star invisible to the unaided eye. How is this possible? How could the Dogon possess this sophisticated astronomical information?
Aliens, mate, it was aliens.
It was aliens. Evan, sorry, they said
I've
twice.
seen this, mate, it was aliens.
Approximately 200,000 Dogon live in 300 villages
that's mad
scattered
enough.
through their land.
The amount of people that
Obviously
believe
some
this.
super spunk going around
That's
there,
like
brother.
Throughout most of
size of
Africa,
Dundee.
the simple melodies of the shepherd's flutes reflect the unchanging pattern of village life.
Are they blowing up somebody's bike tyre or something?
Aye. It's a football. It's for Landomer Day.
On the surface,
There's a
there's
Landomer
little
Queen.
to separate the Dogon
There's
from
Rabbit Crab.
countless other tribes. What makes the Dogon different is a unique social harmony maintained by strong tradition. Among these people, murder, theft, and suicide is all but unknown.
Non-existent.
Greed is
Just
rare.
harmony. No murder, no theft, no suicide. They're all just a big family.
Mate, so this is the thing, mate, right? We think we've got it all figured out, us, don't we?
Aye.
Oh, aye, we've got a fancy, our phones,
We've got a wee fit in the house.
and our tellies, and our bicycles and all this shit, right? Series and our strawberry laces and our Monster and our Apple MacBooks and all that.
Happy? You happy?
But I mean, I know people that have done terrible things, mate,
Right.
and I don't even know that many people.
No.
None of you tell me, place the size of, what did you say, Dundee?
Probably bigger than Dundee. 200,000 people. Let's find out.
Oh, it's not connected to Wi-Fi.
Oh, right, no, that's fine. I would say, I'm just going to do it quickly, right? No, I'll do it.
No, we'll get it. Just leave it up. Just leave it up.
Population of Dundee, I'm just estimating that'll be about 200,000. So that's 158,000. So it's 25% bigger than Dundee. There's 25% more people in the Dogon tribe than there is in Dundee, mate.
So what you're telling me is if Dogon United drew Dundee in maybe the Conference League, right? Mm-hmm. Are you telling me that
They'd have a bigger away
the Dogon tribe would need to request a bigger allocation than Dundee?
Aye, if say they met in the Europa League final, right? The Champions League final, Europa League final's a bit touchy now for our Rangers brothers across the divide.
Mm-hmm.
Any final, if there was a 50-50 split of tickets, the Dogon tribe would be raging.
Do you think they would sell it out instantly?
Aye, they'd sell it out in Mare, aye.
And the thing is with
they'd have fan zones and that.
and the Dogon people, this is a thing, there'd only be one team in Dogon because there's no like rivalry or
It's just all
so it'd just be everybody in Dogon would be behind them, because you're thinking if it's Dundee, the United boys, they're not going to back up the Dundee boys,
No,
and it's going to get tasty. So I mean, you know what I mean, it just goes like that, mate.
But so what do you think? So see out of that first wee few minutes, madness in it.
That's insane, mate. Like, as I say, how would they know this shit? Tell me. Somebody in the comments, tell me.
Aliens.
A goat has broken down a neighbor's wall and damaged his crops. The farmer demands repayment. The goat's owner insists it is the farmer's fault. He should have built a better wall. The elders decide that indeed the wall should be stronger, that both men should rebuild it and replant the crop. Planting, harvesting, the winnowing of grain from chaff, each act of Dogon life has a practical and a spiritual value.
Beautiful.
Practicality and spirituality, it's only two things that matter, bro.
Everything else is just noise, baby.
The study of the Dogon has lured men like Dr. Hans Guggenheim, an anthropologist from Harvard University. He has probed the relationship between the Dogon and their mysterious dark star.
In order to discover this mystery, the mystery of Dogon knowledge about the stars, we have to begin by looking at the inside of their granary. Because the Dogon link in their knowledge the science of growing grain and the understanding of the stars.
All ancient civilizations have needed knowledge of the heavens for the growing of grain. Just as ancient astronomers studied the positions of the sun, moon, and stars, Amandingi, the elder, climbs to a place among the rocks to observe the sun as it moves along a heelstone.
These guys know shit that we don't know, that's all I know looking at that.
Must sow the seed that will
That's
ensure
like precision
their survival.
engineering, what he's doing, you know? To know when
exactly
plant the crop and when it's going to be fruitful for them and shit. And it's
This
past.
land is normally a desert.
Look, mate, look what they've done.
The rainy season is short. Planting must begin at precisely the right moment. The harvest which follows must last through the harsh months of drought.
Mate, and we're so disconnected to like the land, like these people know nothing about the modern world, but we know so little about the earth and how to grow things and we're just so disconnected from it.
So they judge stuff off the black star. It's like, it will get in it, but there's a person in the tribe that can read the stars and knows when to do stuff.
The Hogan, the high priest of Eru, is the chief of Dogon religious
Looks
knowledge.
like King Bob at a recess sitting up there,
Selected
man.
more than 30 years ago by signs and prophecies, he lives a prisoner in a small temple compound. The Hogan is adored and provided for by his people, but cannot be touched by man or woman. He is the living repository of all that is known. His isolation from worldly needs and worldly concerns ensures that the sacred knowledge he keeps will remain pure. Should the Hogan be contaminated by human contact, he must be killed.
It's major, isn't it? He's a prophet, but he speaks to their god.
Away from the clamor of village life, in caves and rock shelters, the teachings of the Hogan are renewed. Tribal legend tells us that beings called Numo descended from the sacred star and appeared before the Dogon ancestors. The Dogon were entrusted by the Numo with 366 symbols given without meaning. The Dogon were charged with interpreting them and preserving the information for future generations. The symbols reveal an astonishing scope of astronomical knowledge, an infinite number of stars and spiraling worlds.
See when you look into like tribes and ancient civilizations, everything's about astrology, mate. Everything's about how can we do things to align with a star and astronomy. We don't even
the confidence of the
think about
Dogon
that
elders.
ever.
But like, so they're saying that an alien's came down to that black star and gave them these symbols and said this is the meaning of life, and it's all like accurately depicting the galaxy. And they've been like trying to work all this stuff out for ages, but they're like, this is what we know. But then astronomers are coming in and going, here, use no more than us. At cave paintings.
Everything that we know about
hell,
and everything that the Dogon know about in the world
Is this the god guy?
came pouring out, and nothing was left except a shell. This empty shell became the star that they call the Pontolo. and that we call Sirius B.
In 1950,
just a recap.
Astronomers confirmed the existence of the Dogon.
All life, they were told, all life came from, there was an explosion, the Big Bang, and then all that was left at the very start was an empty shell, which was Sirius B, which this master race of people called, I think it was the Numo or something they're called, and then they've found out there's other, in their galaxy there's other human life, so they've came and they've contacted the purest form of human. So they've been able to, like, hang when they're like, we're going for these cunts. These are like uninhibited by greed and all the other shit. So that was their creation myth, but it's I think it goes in a wee bit more detail now.
At the United States Naval Observatory, Washington, D.C., Chief Astronomer Dr. Irving Lindenblad devoted years to the search for the dark star.
The Sirius system is a very interesting challenge observationally because it is very difficult to observe a star 10 seconds from such a bright object as Sirius A.
After the years of effort, Dr. Lindenblad finally succeeded in taking this photograph of Sirius B and its giant companion. The Dogon possess even more startling information about the star they hold sacred. They say that when it gave forth all its energy, it collapsed in upon itself, becoming incredibly dense and so heavy that all the earthly beings combined cannot lift it. The San Fernando Observatory, Sylmar, California. Dr. Gary Chapman is an astronomer specializing in the physical characteristics of stars. By splitting the light collected from a distant star into colored bands, its physical characteristics can be analyzed.
The Sirius B is fairly normal in the surface layers, but we do rely on the calculations to tell us that the interior is essentially out of nuclear fuel. It's a dead star. We know from modern calculations that it has a very, very high density, has a density about 5 million times that of water, and if you were to be on the surface of Sirius B right now, you'd be crushed very, very flat because the surface gravity is about 100 million times that of the Earth.
So why would the Dogon know that? They knew a star was heavy. I didn't know stars were fucking heavy. And they knew it was 95% as dense as the sun.
Explained.
And it's tiny.
Knowledge preserved in rituals through the centuries has been confirmed. Beyond the Dogon knowledge of the dark star, the symbols reveal more information about the celestial universe. They correctly place the Earth and our solar system within the Milky Way and state correctly that the massive cluster of stars is far more distant than the planets. The understanding of astronomical movements led the Dogon to investigate the human
Guys
anatomy.
haven't even got a phone, mate.
They discovered the circulation of blood in the
They're
body
too busy for
long
calculators,
before
mate.
it
They're
was
sorting out
discovered by the English
reason we're
physician
here.
William Harvey in the 17th century. These symbols and the knowledge they hold are the legacy of the mysterious Numos, the messengers from the dark star. Many cultures claim their knowledge was given them by godlike beings descended from the heavens. But the Dogons insist their gods descended from one star in particular, which they're able to identify and describe in detail. Does other evidence exist of this encounter between gods and men? In 1937, French anthropologists shot this rare film of the Dogon. They found the people in a frenzy of preparation for a huge ceremony. The scientists were told the funeral of an important man would soon take place. But all this was an elaborate deception designed to protect their secret knowledge.
So, see, the only reason we know this now is because anthropologists have lived with them for years entrusted and made themselves entrusted to the Dogon to reveal their knowledge. See, before, anytime like people came, they done big daft parades and see that dance at the start and shit, and it was like, oh look, this is what we're like and that. So they're like, we're hiding the shit we know because it's ours. Know what I mean? Like this is our
fucking hell. Aye, like, this is for us.
Aye. This is
but
what we were entrusted upon. Aye. So, but then obviously anthropologists have been in and been like, here, use that's what use of
get his tail, man.
Aye, what use knows.
Barney just had a fucking digit up the farter. You need to start telling us some shit. For Barney at least.
There's no way they can know this. Look, see that drawing that they know? That they were drawn in the cave, look. It's the exact same.
Studies of the data were complete.
Man, that is
they
so
verified
mental.
that a small
being able
star
to depict
orbited Sirius every
the
60
trajectory
years,
of a star
exactly
linked to
as the
another star.
Dogon claimed.
I could, like, me and you could watch it up now and never get it right, and they've fucking just done that on a cave here, sort of that, and just done it, mate. And then after years of research, decades of research, they've mapped the trajectory of these stars. Heavy bang on,
that moved the universe and that held Sirius, the Sigitolo, in place and determined its course in an elliptical way, which they have painted and graphed on the walls of their caves, an ellipse which has been borne out by Western observations.
More than 4 decades have passed since the last Siggy. Only the oldest among the Dogon recall it. The greatest experience of their lives.
Wow, man.
Subway 5-hour sets.
It is from the Citadel Shrine of Yuga Dugaru that the order to commence the next Siggy will come.
Spig Siggy!
Here live the only men who claim they have actually seen the alignment between the Earth and the distant star. Elders of a secret society, they are the venerated guardians of the shrine, where they say a place in the cliff begins to glow when it is time for the Siggy ritual.
Can you pause this now?
What mysteries inspire these?
Can I just say how perfect this video is for a podcast? like
it's the ultimate. This actually epitomises our podcast.
Mate, see, when I was watching it, I was like, because I just came across the Dogon tribe, and it was after, shout out Gary Buckets again. Gary had asked us to cover aliens and tribal things, and I was like, it's a pure perfect mix of them. But then when you watch it, it's like tribal rituals, like aliens,
stars, ancient knowledge,
conspiracy theories, like
everything in one.
Devote their lives to the keeping of a shrine, to the knotting of a rope, measuring the time until a ceremony they will not live to see. In sanctuaries hidden among the cliffs, there is evidence of the antiquity of the Siggy ritual. The mask, called Na, dates from an early observation of the dark star. It is believed by scientists to be more than 300 years old. Masks for future rituals will be modeled on this example.
So what conclusion does one come to from the Dogon knowledge of the star Sirius? I feel there are one of 3 possibilities. A, that they have supernatural knowledge or extrasensory perception. B, perhaps they've been visited by creatures from outer space. Or C, that the whole thing is coincidence. And I must say, as a professional astronomer, I strongly side with item C, that it's coincidence.
Fuck off, you fucking dick, man. Fucking daft cow. You're a fucking fat dick.
These guys all get it off.
Turn that fucking
thing off, man. These guys are always the same.
What a fucking...
yeah, it's total coincidence. This ancient tribe, all this fucking astronomer knowledge. Mate, these guys build a bonfire, put Travis fucking...
fat cunt at the top.
That piss... And as a professional astronomer, I know that I strongly side with option C. It's a strange coincidence.
Well, mate, as the best podcasters in the world, we strongly side with option A. No, B.
A or B or both.
Mate, they were visited by aliens. Like, obviously these cunts are amazingly clever. I don't think they're supernatural. I think they've been fed shit.
I didn't want to get into that guy, but how would he know me?
I know. It's just he's trying to be controversial. It's like people that go, here, Harry Styles, he's now tuning shit or something. Know what I mean? Like try to have a controversial take on something.
Go against the grain.
If he did say, then he would probably be seen as a controversial guy in his communities and
No,
all that.
but I think it's the opposite. I think, and I heard a great kind of thing about this on Joe Rogan. They had a guy on called Forrest Galante who is a biologist. So what he does is he goes and looks for animals that are supposedly extinct and goes and hunts them down and sees if they are really extinct or not. Because there's never been a faster amount of animals going into extinction than there is the new. It's like a ridiculous number. So it's like, he's of the opinion, like, surely they're no longer, if we looked everywhere, can we really say they're extinct? And he was saying what happens is, so say there's some findings, right, where if you say, right, so like he was telling a story about this guy who was like a very well thought of, high ranking sort of biologist in his field, or a scientist or something, a very like well respected, like opinion, well thought of kind of guy, and he ended up finding an extinct animal, right? And he didn't want to tell anybody, because if he said, I believe this, it actually in his field would make him look stupid. Because even if he did actually see it, but everybody else would go, did you see he's fucking on, trying to say he's seen that, and it discredits them by telling the truth. So it could be like a similar thing to that.
Do you know, like, the best scientists ever, like, see, not even scientists, think, like, see, like Stephen Hawking and Aristotle. I watched a mad thing about like Aristotle, Galileo, Stephen Hawking. It was like all these great minds. Every single thing they did was contradicting themselves, and that's what makes them so well thought of. Because like Stephen Hawking said, like, the universe can't be ever expanding, because if it is, where does it end or something? And then he went 10 years researching something and said, came up with the universe is an ever expanding thing. Like, he just fully disproved like 10 year work.
Because he's looking for the truth, he's not looking for my opinion and then it's right.
Exactly, mate.
Another topic that Gary Buckets wanted us to look into was the Amazon. Now, he was on about looking into sort of ancient findings that they're now sort of just discovering in the Amazon. So I looked into the Amazon as a whole. So let's give the people, everybody knows the Amazon rainforest, baby. I mean, you will say, there's common jokes in society these days, like, oh, like, fuck it, it's like the Amazon down there, if you've not maybe shaved your pubic area, which obviously Barney Hill we avoided for a long time. Shout out to Barney Hill, man. We love you. But so the Amazon rainforest is, let's just because I've got some wee knowledge about it, and I'll just see what you think of this. So this is a very obviously hard question. How old do you think the Amazon rainforest is? How long do you think they've estimated?
Don't know, 60,000.
Well, I know there's a lot. There's like so many species in it now, that so that they must have had to take time to evolve there now, that so might have been one of the first times.
Right, so what is one of the first things? What's your number?
A number.
I'm going to say 12 million years.
Oof. 10 million years, mate. Joseph. Very close, mate. Well done.
Joey G, man.
So it's 10 million years fucking old, hell. Right? So it homes 390 billion trees.
Fucking hell, really?
And it covers 8 countries, right? Brazil, Bolivia, Peru, Ecuador, Colombia, Venezuela, Guyana, Suriname, and French Guyana.
Brilliant.
So 8 countries this fucking goes to, this big fucker. So you think about the size, that must be 8 countries, right? It spans 7 million square kilometres.
Fucking hell.
7 million, mate. So the crazy thing about it is, that's huge, but 5.5 million square kilometres of that has been almost untouched. No discovered. We don't know what's in it, right? So to put that into perspective, it's hard to obviously think, how big an area is that? 20 times the size of the UK.
Fucking hell.
The entire...
Is that the untouched part or the full thing?
No, the untouched part. 20 times the size of the UK, the whole UK.
That is fucking insane.
How an area that size and we basically can't even see in it. But due to technology called LiDAR, you know what this is, Joe? Right, so this is crazy. So they're now able to discover what's beneath extremely dense parts of the forest because of LiDAR technology. So a helicopter shoots literally billions of lasers onto the emergent layer of the rainforest, which can detect what's underneath using a heat map.
Right.
So like, it comes back on a heat map, and you can see like basically a picture of what it's doing there, right?
Aye, so you can see like a topography of it.
Aye, like the ground. So what it does is it shoots through the canopy, which is the bit we can't get through.
Aye.
And it shows you exactly what's underneath on like the floor of the rainforest.
Aye, I get you.
And they're discovering mad shit, mate. So this technology and the increased rate of jungle being chopped down and used for farmland is allowing us to discover things that we never thought were possible in the Amazon. So archaeologists have recently discovered that large organised societies lived in the Amazon. So huge man-made geoglyphs have been discovered all over the Amazon now.
What's a geoglyph?
I'm going to get Joseph's got a picture of one. So and this is in these particular ones I'm talking about and going to show are in an area of the Amazon in Brazil called Acre, right? Mm-hmm. So let's look at these, right? So these are getting found everywhere, mate. These strange patterns, circles. There's ones of like a square with a circle in it, right? Which is something that there you go there, right? Which is something that we credited the Greeks with like inventing. Right? So this was well before the Greeks that this would have been here, right? Insanity, right? So these things are potting up all over the rainforest, and it would have taken a majorly organised society to be able to construct these. So this means that the history of us thinking that the Amazon only held like small groups of hunter-gatherers is completely wrong, mate. Like, there's no way that they could do that.
Metropolis.
They're playing noughts and crosses now.
It's a big game of noughts and crosses, man. And in just this Acre area, over 500 of them have been discovered. And the area that they cover, right, is as big as Scotland.
Fuck's sake.
Just them, apart all other place, mate. They're finding them everywhere.
So a pure thriving culture was there. You know what it's giving me off the vibes of, mate? The rickshaw structure.
Exactly, mate. It's all these things, right? And there's another one that we're going to talk about called the Nazca lines, right?
Right.
Which are, can you even pull that up? This is what we find with all these ancient cultures, ancient discoveries. They're making these things that can only be seen in their proper perspective from like way up in the air. Like you couldn't even see if you were standing next to it. They're that big you couldn't even tell what it was. So how are they making these patterns?
I've got something, right? I've got something.
Look at these Nazca. Look at these first, right? What, like, this is in Peru.
No, but I've got like a thing that like I used to do that will explain how hard this is, right? See, when I was doing like civil engineering stuff, you used to have to obviously spray paint hundreds of lines on the ground, like to set out buildings and shit. Do you know what I mean? So you'd have like string, and then you take a thing weight, and then string and take in weight, and then you get a line of string for where you're meant to paint on the ground for where the edge of the building's going to be, and see trying to spray a straight line, it's hard.
Aye.
And then see when you step back for it, you're like, oh fuck, I've fucked that up. So imagine that, the size of Scotland, trying to get that right from like being on the ground with it.
Aye, it is
doesn't work in my brain.
It's insanity, right? And like the thing that's fucked as well, like what you're saying, like this is the Nazca lines in Peru, right?
Oh my god.
That's for like in a plane.
Look at the spider,
mate. You can, it's insane, mate. They've made it perfect. How could they have done that? That is extremely advanced, like understanding of maths. So like how trigonometry, and these are beings that lived way before, like millions of years, right? So this isn't in the Amazon, obviously. This is in Peru, but back to sort of this Amazon. So these lines are getting found everywhere, right? So to bring it back in 1940, right? Wait. So oh my god,
in 941 BC.
No. Right now, in 1541. That's what I was trying to say there, mate. I just kept saying 19. I don't know why. Right, and I nearly said it again there.
In 1541?
Mate, I think it was in 1948 or something. No, it was in 1541. A Spanish explorer, Francis de Orellana, sailed down the Amazon River. So he was the first European to sail the entire way, right? First ever. And he reported back saying he's seen thriving cities with thousands of people, extremely advanced arts and crafts. And And then 100 years later, more European explorers took the same route, but they couldn't find any of these cities. There was nobody here, and they declared that, big Franny boy, he's fucking made that up.
Talking absolute dog meat.
But the reason the cities were cleared and deserted was that the Spanish had brought smallpox to the area, which devastated the population. People had to leave the cities, they died off. So by the time the next group of explorers reached the areas, the jungle had overgrown and the cities were just like indistinguishable, like overgrown, like
what you see of like Mayan ruins
exactly.
and stuff. Mate, I read that once like ages ago. See, when you were talking about that, I was like, this rings a bell. I read that ages ago. So did that guy bring smallpox or the Spanish flu?
I would imagine so. I think that's what happened. Like he was doing pure like, hello, no baby, hola.
Kissing babies, no.
And they're like, there you go, what's happening, mate?
He's just spreading the worst thing ever.
Mate, and he's
that is insane, man.
That is crazy, mate. So, but the question is, right, so this is the thing, it's like, right, okay, they say that fucking 20, mate, it was approximately 20 million people lived in the Amazon. 20 million. What is Scotland, like 5-6 million?
5 million, aye.
This is just in that jungle. 20 million people. So how did they feed that many people? That's a lot of people. And obviously the Amazon, right? So this is what I'm saying. Another important discovery is how the ancient civilizations that lived there managed to feed the population of approximately 20 million people. Because the rainforest floor is notoriously bad for growing crops on, right?
Agriculture.
It's like pretty much like a one and done. Like you can grow something on it, and then the soil's fucked. Like you can't use it. However, it's been established that these ancient people used a biochar, right, named Terra Preta or dark earth, right? So Terra Preta is literally thousands of years old, and what it is it's like this got a composting, right, where they get the soil and mix it with all these different things, right? And see this Terra Preta, we'll get a picture up, maybe like the crop and the difference by growing it normally in Terra Preta, it's like 3-4 times the size. It's like this super soil that's like, mate, you can take a bit of Terra Preta from 8,000 years ago, put it in like soil the new and crop, it'll grow crops.
And B&Q Garden Centre.
For thousands. I mean, you can go and buy it, B&Q. Mate, honestly, it's insane. So they made this by like, Joseph, can you Google how they made it? Like what, it's like they used to burn all these materials together into a natural char, like chalk sort of.
Carbonated.
And it's Terra Preta, dark earth.
So that's, sorry Joe, just, that's like what we spoke about before, where like when like Western civilizations invaded like indigenous people, they were like, oh, you can't grow here, you can't grow in here, this is pure shite. These are just hunter and gathering like savages and that. But then now cunts are finding out, no, they had a mad, like they knew what they were doing well more than we do.
In touch with the land, ancient knowledge about, right, if we mix this, because you think about all the things we're learning daily, right? Oh, you mix with this and that makes this, and you can cure this with this and that cures like burns and that, like all these random things of the earth put together. So they obviously knew so much shit that we still have no clue about. It's crazy. But can you, like, I think you've got how they made it, or
Terra Preta was made by adding a mixture of charcoal, bone, broken pottery, compost and manure to the low fertility Amazonian soil.
Man, that's science.
That is science.
That's agricultural science, which advances species. Like so, that's like how you get ahead. When you master agriculture. So they had done that.
So these weren't like, oh, they were struggling in like. And this is the thing as well, right? So for thousands of years, I mean, I'm sure we all believe this, right? We all thought like, oh, the Amazon's like a natural wonder, and it's like it's just a
biome.
A biome. It's like a perfect like it's area for like biodiversity and like just a natural resource of the earth that's just. But I mean, they're discovering that it was man-made. See the trees that have been planted in the Amazon, right? So recently it's been suggested that it is man-made. Many of the hyper-dominant tree species in the Amazon are highly valuable fruit crops, which must have been carefully selected like thousands of years ago. So these communities that have been living in the Amazon thousands of years before these trees have even grown have been like, right, to live here and just like grow proper things for us to eat and that, right, we need to plant these here and plant all these here so we can go and
insanity.
mate, so we've lived all this time, right, thinking, oh, the Amazon, it's just this, well, it's just there, it's just in the earth and it's growing. Mate, they're finding now that everything's strategically placed, where each tree is, where certain things grow in accordance to the sun, how it hits it. It's insanity, mate. So everything that we believed about the Amazon is basically wrong.
So they've thought this is a barren wasteland, we're going to turn this into something that can thrive.
Aye,
and then now it's like another planet there. How perfectly like diverse, as you said, biodiverse everything is. It's just all pure contained in this one place.
Aye.
Like we couldn't do that,
No.
Like we try and do like the Eden project down in Newcastle, wherever that Eden project is, and it's like decent, it's like good. It's
These
like,
people were so far ahead of us, it's a joke. Like, it's a joke, and we think this is what's fascinates me about this shit.
And that.
We think like, we are like technologically advanced beings. That's the thing that we advance with, like how we can make sort of robots work for us and sort of thing. But these, like, I think the thing with our civilization is we're always looking like, oh, what's out there, man? Earth's just fucking Earth, but what's out there, like the stars and the... When really, we have no clue about our own Earth. Like, we have no clue how to just survive using what's here. We're always looking for what's outside, whereas these people understood, like, it's almost like the stars and other whatever entities or whatever were getting them information about how our Earth, whereas we're wanting information about what's out there and like, no caring about
like the Dogon people were like, they said like we worship the crop and the seeds because they were given to us by the heavens, and by the heavens they mean the stars and the sky and that. And then, as we spoke about before, with like Aboriginal people in Australia, it's like they worship the land because it gives them life and shit. Here it's like, and it's another thing about how we're detached, like, if you're wanting carrots, you go down and you get a packet of carrots in a plastic bag, and it's just like you're just getting no idea where they came from. They just go nice with your fucking steak pie or something.
We're so detached to the process of like growing food, and especially I found this in Vietnam. This was really interesting in Vietnam. See, if you go to a steakhouse in Vietnam, right? See, 9 times out of 10, it's going to be called something like, oh, Moo Moo's Steakhouse. They're like, there'll be a picture of a cow on it. See, in the UK, we're so far detached for that. I seen a video of a guy interviewing a guy about like, oh, like, he was a vegan, but he wasn't really he wasn't trying to force it on the boy, but he was like trying to make him think about maybe things differently. And he was like, so do you eat meat a lot? And he's like, oh, I try my best not to. I don't eat chicken. And he's like, oh, like, what meat do you eat still? And he's like, oh, beef. I'm bad with beef. And he's like, he said, sorry, what animals do you eat still? And he's like, oh, beef. And he's like, do you notice like beef isn't the animal, but you say that's the animal you're eating, and it's so because we're so far detached for that process, and thinking, oh, that's a cow, that's a lamb. That's a thing
that I was like reading about something today with this, and it was talking about, it was a thing, it was like a study for like Oxford University, and it was like where we're going in like 75 years or something, and then it was the main thing was that everybody would be vegan. That was like the thing. That's like where we're going. That's where that's what we should be.
Proper trajectory.
And it was talking about like, see all the mammals that we eat, see like cows, pigs, and like deer and stuff. That's called venison, bacon, and beef. But see, when it's like a bird that's further away from you, it's turkey and chicken. And it was like, we can just like, we're fine with killing that, but see, because they're slightly closer to us. As well. And fish, so it's just like, I'm eating fish, I'm eating chicken, I'm eating turkey. But if you're eating anything else, it's like
less sentient.
I've got a question to pose to you, right? So what do you think you prefer, right? Like, try to get in the Earth and all that, or just like try to get to every planet? Like, do you think we should be focusing?
I want to go to every planet.
No, but I think it's sort of ironic that we're looking for all these answers and we've not even discovered what's here yet. You know what I mean? It's
but like I feel like that ship has sailed for us as Western humans.
No, we're long gone. There's no way. I mean, like with capitalism and that, it's like there's no way we're going to go, let's just everybody just slow down a wee bit.
We're all vegan now. We don't use fossil fuels.
Nobody's got jobs, no crime and that, no fighting. I know we've done it for millions of years.
Our only hope, it's like, as we were talking earlier on, Star Wars, A New Hope, our only hope is that colonisation in Mars works out, baby. So I think, I was just wanting to say, like, alien abductions, right? See, before going into the research on this, as I said, we've pure hammered it. I was like, if I get abducted by aliens, I'd be buzzing about it. I was happening trips, like What do you need to know? I'll let you know what's happening, right?
The chosen one.
Aye,
That's
exactly.
when the main character syndrome would slowly come out, mate.
Skyrocket.
I was abducted by aliens.
Here,
like-
they actually and I think I can change them.
No.
They're different around me. You don't know what they're like
I can
when we're
talk
alone.
to them on a level that I don't think anyone else can.
You just don't see what they're like when we're alone together.
You just see the pale grey skin and the slitty mouth. I see a loving being.
But I was what to say to you. Obviously, like we've seen what like contacting like these tribes of these pure human people. We've seen Travis Walton, them try to kind of help him with his injuries, and then we've seen the kind of bad side of them, like these different fucking species, like interested in our skeletons and that. What is your overarching opinion on like all this shit? Like how do you see everything we spoke about today? Is it all true, in your opinion?
I think the alien abduction ones are hard because it is literally somebody just saying this happened to me, and then you can look at the physical evidence. I think in both cases there's physical evidence that something fucking happened to these cunts.
Yep.
Something happened, and if it was an alien, was it a UFO, was it this, was who knows? Something fucking happened, mate.
Mm-hmm.
You heard like Barney screaming and that. Something happened.
You don't put that on.
You can't put shit like that on.
Drifter hippie guy you were talking about just gave him a wee dose or something. Even though you did say
that is possible.
you
but
said it tested negative though. You did say
tested
that.
negative for drugs, but you don't know how accurate their drug tests are on that. So it could be shit like that. But the one thing for the day I want to say, the Dogon tribe are the chosen ones, mate.
They are the main characters of Earth.
Aye, they are, mate, because that's like, as you said, right? Why would Barney and Betty Grable or whatever, Barney and Betty Hill, why would they lie? Why would the Dogon people lie to man
But if they go to gain, they can't make money.
They're chilling, you know what I mean? They've got their creation myth and that's
I think that's the point you always need to look at it. Is there a reason to lie? And obviously in some cases with alien abductions, people, I got abducted by aliens, here's this book about how I got abducted in this movie, and I'll come on your show and talk about it, and you know what I mean, there's that kind of thing. But especially with the Dogon tribe, I mean, aliens were there, brother.
Aye.
I know an alien when I see one, mate.
Aye, you know you do.
And aliens were there, man.
So what is the takeaway? Is it that the Dogons are the chosen one of Earth?
They're the main characters, mate. They are the main characters of Earth. We should all worship the Dogons. I think we should all live like the Dogons.
Oh, mate, it would be a beautiful society, wouldn't it?
That's the way I'm trying to go, mate.
As you said, like there's 25% more of them than there is in the population of Dundee. They get along a lot better.
Aye, they're in the Conference League next year. Yeah. Let's see how far they go. It could be the tale of the underdog. Not really the underdog, because they know everything about life. So
the know-it-alls a bit.
I hope they get put out first round by some fucking finished mob or something.
It's a bit like Moneyball. Like they've got all the statistics down to a key. You know what I mean?
Like, all right, man.
But so are we want to finish on something light-hearted, or will we?
I want to watch, guys, we did have a man on here named Lee Sutherland.
Oh my goodness gracious.
And obviously, Lee Sutherland, man, I loved Lee.
Loved?
Lee is getting a bit out of hand now, guys, and I don't know, it is a bit, and I think it is a case of he's became slightly too self-aware of what we find funny about him.
I think we had a big hand in it.
I think we've killed he's still getting views, he's still getting this. I think we've killed the sort of innocence, sort of the jovial kind of funny side. I think we killed it with our podcast.
See, after he was on like the podcast, straight away did a video about like it was just so too on the nose of it. Was like Evan does a really good Lee Sutherland impression. The video he posted the day after he came on ours was like you doing an impression of him.
I feel like Lee is now trying to act like Lee Sutherland instead of being Lee Sutherland, and it's just killed it for me. But I did see a video the other day which I'm getting a bit worried about. That I don't know what I mean. I know people are worried before, but did you get that link through on the? Did you go on the WhatsApp chat? Let's finish on this, guys, because I seen this just chilling.
Here, I'm steaming.
Are you?
Aye, I just want a wee bit.
I seen this and I was like, oh, what the fuck are you doing, mate?
Just look at this. Donuts, look at this. Tango Charlie 14, Police Scotland Service. Response over. Come on, quick, get the donuts in that traffic, please,
Cow.
I'm actually... Oh, I don't even know what to say anymore, man. I think we should end it on that, folks. How do we move from that?
No, I know.
But troops, hope you've enjoyed it, man. This is maybe our longest deep fried ever.
I know.
And we wanted. This is what happens, man. See if yous trust us to actually buy that tier and research topics. They're gonna get fucking researched the fuck out of.
See all the fucking nerds over on YouTube. They're all bastards. Right, see you guys. We put in the most effort, didn't we, mate? Like
we only. I mean, would we care if everybody that watched the YouTube videos died? I'm no speculating. I'm no saying things. I'm no putting things out there. But I'm just saying we love the patrons.
But aye,
and I mean it's kind of like you see in life, guys. You get friends and you get acquaintances, okay? And yous are our friends.
Aye, family.
Thank you to Gary Buckets again for making us look into this, because you've actually made us learn stuff.
Aye.
So, troops, if there's a topic that you're like, oh, that just gets my plums pumping and I want the boys to look into it.
Yep.
Get down to that £30 tier, the Be a Director tier, and make sure, troops, I need to tell you this. Once you do that tier, make sure you change it back the next month. Unless you want us to look about 2 in a row.
Aye.
But I mean, just remember to do that so you're no charged like, £30 twice.
This is supposed to be like a donation thing. Like, it's a donation of that, and yous are saying, can you please look into this?
Aye.
You're giving us a tenner each to go and look into something for a few hours.
Aye. Thanks again to Gary Buckets. And also a shout out to who? Badger and who?
Wee Craig's, aren't they?
Aye, and I think they're both in the Patreon anyway, so they'll be seeing this, man. Gary's saying that they put him onto my videos and stuff, and that's how we're here, and it's a beautiful thing. You never know what's going to happen in life.
Glorious.
And I think things are just fate sometimes. Me meeting Gary Buckets, us researching this.
Somebody being called Gary Buckets.
Everything is just so beautiful at the moment, guys, and look, we hope you enjoyed the episode. There's more to come. Thank you again for subscribing to the Patreon. You're in early. There's so much more coming, guys. We've got so much planned. Thank you, and hey, keep your mittens warm, baby boy. See you on our side.
Love yous.